Hello, everybody, and welcome to Blood and Song presents Ripper's Roadside Tavern. This is a very, very special episode that takes place in the future of this adventure, where Ripper has spent all of his money by defeating the world and, being the best person ever, and whatever we have planned in the story. Obviously, whatever it is going to make Ripper look amazing. And he spends all of that money in a tavern, and he invites all of the amazing adventurers that he's had time with to sit around when they regale stories like the way your parents or family or even friends do when you reminisce about the times you had at school. So that is what we've got, a special episode for you today.
As we really awkward when you die in the
of course. But then all this is just an alternate reality. Multiverse. Yeah, multiverse.
Well, that just means everybody's dead at the end.
Yeah.
Ripper's son. It could be like a generational thing. Ripper's son is
Ripper Junior.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of them out there.
Yeah, there is, let's be honest. So I just wanted to, as we've come last week to move now into Nuremberg, we've moved away from Chinella. It's the first time as a group we've actually moved to a different area and almost starting. I wouldn't say we're starting another arc, but this is quite a big sort of time. We've been, when did we start? October, I think, right?
Yeah.
So we've done nearly a year's worth of episodes.
Yeah, it's basically our anniversary, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very soon. So we wanted to take some time to have a recap episode and go over some of our favorite moments of season one or arc one, and go over some bloopers reels, some things that have gone in and wrong, and just to sort of shed some background on our characters before we embark on this next massive adventure. I am joined, as always, by Brad, who plays Octavius.
Hello.
Christine, who plays Faeza.
Hello.
Dan, who plays Lak.
Hello.
And Sean, that plays Sixsmith.
What are those finger guns things?
They're ninja fingers.
Fingers.
Because
hello.
I might as well do it because Taj has noticed already. But Taj bought me this.
Yes. As we all got gifts from Taj, Dan has a full monk's outfit, socks included, if the camera isn't cutting that off. If you could just put your foot over your head, Dan.
Casual monk move.
Yeah. But so this is some of the gifts you got.
It's all good.
That's the amazing saffron robes that were obviously bought by super fan Taj.
Thank you, Taj.
Call him, and thank you very much. And we brought us all a little bit of presents. Brad has done the best with his
outfit.
Little bird. Yep. Which actually, now that I'm looking at it on Twitch, is backwards.
Yes.
So,
I did mention that and that's all the better for it.
So Brad's got a lovely drib with him. It's excellent. Obviously, Faeza, Christine and Faeza, I don't know which one's which, but the amazing goggles.
Yeah, these come from Taj. Thank you very much, mate.
What about the glasses? Where did the glasses come from? Are they yours?
Oh, I got those ones.
To be fair, Sean's going to have his chili pack and eat chilies all the way through this episode.
Yeah, nice try. Mate, we did the chili episode, which I'm sure we'll reflect on later on. That was done, and I'm proud of that.
That was just training.
Yeah. I'm sure Six would think so, right? Yeah.
And I've managed to import from China some lovely silky material that sort of matches the blue and pinks of Ripper. And Sean found, I think, this is what Sixsmith wears under his armor, to make sure
Sixsmith kicking back.
Yeah, to make sure that you don't get, because the worst thing on a battlefield is nipple chafe in your armor. This is one thing you don't want. So you want a nice silky underlayer.
Vaseline. You use Vaseline.
Lots of Vaseline, which I think in thingy is just like
gelatinous cube extract.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yes. So, we've got a couple of questions, a couple of things to sort of take you through. It'd be a bit more of a full informal episode. We're just chatting. If you do have any questions, chuck them in the chats in YouTube and on Twitch, and we can just start going through a bunch of them, and we can sort of help answer some of those. I think Johnny is in the chat with us as well, so he'll be chatting along, asking us great questions. I imagine if we start ruining his timelines too much, he'll jump in.
He's already mentioned
anything we say. Yeah, anything we say is canon.
He's already corrected us on one thing, that in fact in Nuremberg they eat by rubbing chilies into their eyes. So
brilliant.
So something to look forward to there, Sean.
Yeah.
Next challenge.
Well, that means all these NPCs have got to do it as well. That's the
Yeah, it's so true.
That's true.
It's so
Yeah.
true.
So while we all grab some chilies and rub them in our eyes, Brad, roll those credits and we'll be right back.
Oh,
It's like
well,
that scene
was
from
an
Hot
amazing
Fuzz.
chili session of chili that we just did, and
I'd
now
be
it's
gutted
over
if
and
I'd
to
missed
never do
that.
again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Losers.
So welcome to Ripper's Roadside Tavern. Pull up a stool at the bar, grab yourself a tasty cup of mead or a lovely warm ale, and listen to some of the tales as we, as a party, tell what amazing things have happened. So let's go back. We're gonna take this one back. Let's go all the way back to episode 1, Party of the Fallen Leaves, Festival of the Fallen Leaves is what it was, wasn't it? Episode 1, where we first sort of got introduced to our characters. But before that, we had actually spent about, I'd say it's probably about 2 or 3 months prepping everything, hadn't we? I think we started this in what I think was about June or July of 2020, where Johnny had done a couple of runs. We'd already done the first season of Earth's Embers, and then I think he had done the second one with the Paradise crew. And we were like, okay, let's try and turn this into a stream. Let's try and make this happen. And, we are all, as many of you've known, a bunch of, creative geniuses, I think is the technical term. But we're all professional in our own fields. So we were like, hey, let's grab all these people. So I think it took us a couple of months to get logos, get names, Johnny write the story and help obviously all of us come up with characters. And I think that's where I would like to start. What was it that enthralled you to create your character? And, why did you pick it? What made you think of the name? What was the story behind it? Just a couple of things, it might be nice to sort of figure it out. I know, for example, Dan's been playing this for eons, I think is the technical term.
Eons, yeah. I'm sure his uncles will be happy with with knowing that they're over an eon old, right? Yeah. Whatever that is, yeah.
Yeah, next time when you meet them, you'll have to talk to them about that.
But isn't one of them called Uncle Ian?
No, I've got an Uncle Andrew. And
Andrew.
Arthur
That's
are the ones I play mostly with.
Well, Arthur's been around for eons. He's been playing this literally since there were dragons and dungeons and pulling swords out and stuff and things like that. So
I can start off with a little bit of because I remember that we were playing the Eberron game, right? And we were playing Eberron. It was all of us, and excluding Christine, because at that time we had sort of brought you into the fold. But
we didn't talk to women at that point. So
it's a real struggle.
Yeah, but now we have to, because streams like this need them. So that's why we're doing this. No, but we'd already. We'll get to when we actually sort of made it a thing, and then we thought who have we played with before, basically? And we'd played with you before, Christine, hadn't we? Like a couple of games.
A couple of games, didn't we?
So we'll definitely get to that. But I remember very early on, we were playing with Johnny. He did an Eberron campaign, which we did every week. Was it every week or every 2 weeks? I think at the time it might have been every week.
It was disparate.
Yeah, it was eventually.
For it. All of our games are a bit disparate and still are, apart from
this. I think we were playing them once a week at the beginning of lockdown when no one had any time to do it, when everyone was
true.
So we were playing them once a week, and then we even started playing your game, Brad, as well. We started playing Castrad as well, and then we started
taking it in turns, alternating.
Started alternating weeks to help with time for those stories to progress.
And so I remember we discussed in a group. We were like, wouldn't a Bollywood? This is back in the day when we were like, why is there not a Bollywood RPG? Why is that not a thing? Why hasn't there been a really good setting?
And
hang on, we have to discuss why we had this discussion.
Yeah, and
right?
I was just about to get on that because we had Johnny on as a guest for Slash Tube, and we talked about Bahubali.
Yes. We do a film podcast.
Which...
Some of you already know we do a film pitching podcast. A handful of us. Everyone here has been on it, and it goes out every other Friday. It's called Slash Dupe. So you're right. That was it.
I had introduced you to Bahubali, and the one scene where they fire an army of attackers over a castle wall were tied to a palm tree that form a spinning shield ball to then land on the other.
Now,
yeah, and we're like, well, why are we not doing this? Why has this not been?
Yeah,
I think
that was my
actually
homework as well, wasn't it? That was my
watch
homework.
Bahubali.
I think that's how the Taliban took Kabul back over. I think as well.
Oh God!
Hang on. No,
for people watching this in 20 years' time, this is a timely reference. All right. Yeah. Although to be fair, with the Middle East, it'll be timely for like another 2,000 years.
I mean, some might say close enough.
Yeah, very close. Very close. But hilarious.
So and then we sort of thought, as we were expanding it, we thought, well, it's crying shame, and it still is, that there isn't, like, as far as I'm aware, a really sort of big Bollywood RPG scene. And I love video games. I was thinking, well, Final Fantasy, but in Bollywood, like a Bollywood world, would be amazing, and the dance numbers and the fighting and stuff. And we sort of brought this to the group, and we were chatting about it, and we thought, well, it's not really authentic for us to say, well, let's do a Bollywood thing, because there's even evidence when we have Taj sort of schooling us on it, is like, we actually don't know much about Bollywood. But we thought we do have our own Asian, Anglo-Indian and Asian British heritages that we could pull from. And Johnny as well, believe it or not, I'm sure he'll have something to say in the comments, does have Anglo-Indian heritage. I've met his grandmother and she cooks fantastically. And we all have a different sort of, all of us, obviously Ryan and mine are similar because we're brothers, but we all have a similar sort of background, but then they sort of diversify in different ways.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, let's just create something together that feels like it's coming from an Anglo foreign mixed sort of perspective, including Johnny's Italian heritage, Anglo-Italian heritage. And we thought maybe that was not something you often see. That, you know, you often see a lot of BAME and ethnic minorities and stuff having, you know, sort of now sort of creating lots of media, which is fantastic, but still I felt a little bit, I don't know if you guys agree, but I felt a little bit like, well, what about these weird Anglos that are halfway in between, you know, like, where do we live? What do we do? And we thought, instead of feeling the same echoes that our grandparents and parents felt, you know, between these two worlds, let's try and create something together. And Johnny, to his credit, like he did a ton of research and he's researched all the areas we go to. He's really sort of, he wants to respect it whilst also not caricaturing it, which is something I admire it completely. So he went off and created this new continent as part of his Erionwel world, part of Elusaria's world from Earth's Embers, and created the Erionwel world, and we created the characters to populate it based on, I'm sure if you know us, basically all of our personalities. But
how did you come up with 6? Like, what was it? For those of you who are listening at home, Sean has a history of creating characters that are mechanically incredibly difficult to play, and then he forgets everything week to week. So we were sort of saying, Sean, just play a champion fighter. You get 4 attacks eventually. It's great. Just play a champion fighter. And so I think so where did the inspiration? I was like,
I'll compromise and do a battle master. So like, I still have complicated things to do
that you forget to do most of the time.
I forget to do most of the time, but they're still much simpler than, as Christine will attest, I played an artificer in the last game that we played. And I don't know how you're finding it now as an artificer, Christine. I'll tell you what, do you mind telling us about how you came up with your character? Because I have talked enough for now. I'll get into Sixsmith maybe after we talked about Lack and talked about a couple of other characters.
Yeah, I mean, well, I came into this, as many people will know, as a noob, really. I'd done like 2 or 3 games with you guys. And then, so I didn't really know what was going on. And I think I was the final member of the party to be kind of recruited. I got a phone call from Dan going, come on. And I went, all right. And I had no idea what was going on. So really I wanted to find like fill the gap that might be in the team. And I had this sort of interest in because I'm in my job, I'm a stage manager and I'm a prop maker and a fixer kind of person. I was like, well, that would be quite cool to do something like that. And then somebody said, oh, there's this role called an artificer. I was like, oh, that's all right, I'll do that. And then someone went, it is quite complicated. I went, oh, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Famous
with
last words.
mixed results.
Yeah.
I
You can't
think
say you weren't warned, right? But
No,
like,
no,
but
I can't say.
I've since the time I've known you, you seem to like to throw yourself in the deep end and understand something, right? So that can make sense. Like if you're going to understand D&D and you understand it via an artificer, you can basically do anything else after that.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
so complicated.
I kind of tried to make it a bit easier in myself because I'm trying to learn the role of the artificer. So I didn't want to get too bogged down in lore in terms of you know, species and culture and things like that. So so to try and balance it out, I've got a character who she's a foundling. We don't know a lot about her past now, so there might be a couple of, not spoilers, but a couple of bits that you haven't found out about her yet in this. So I wanted to go for someone who was an orphan, who didn't really know her place in the world and was still trying to find things out. So you know, kind of art imitating life in terms of going, what's that? A lot. So that's where she came from, where Faeza came from. And the idea is that, you know, she's quite naive to the world, and that reflects the naivety to D&D from me, I hope. But her name was, her name, Faeza, is because she's actually got a surname which you don't hear very often. But her full name is Faeza Eldamo. Right. And the Eldamo, which I'm probably saying wrong, is Gnomish for red, because she's red. And I chose it to be red because I had no idea that gnomes weren't normally red. So I'm like, red will be all right, I'll do that. And yeah, so, and Faeza was just a name that I found. I just kind of rooted around to try and find some name generator to get the first name idea, and then I thought, okay, because she's a foundling, maybe she just got a name that was found. Yeah, and that's sort of where she's come from, really. She's from Zawati, and that's a culture which is very secretive. So at the moment I'm trying to find a balance with Johnny about how much, because her whole culture is don't tell outsiders about Zawati, don't tell outsiders about Zawati. So at the moment, and we're just reaching that brink in the storyline of when she's going to reveal a bit more about her heritage and her city and her history as well, because she's lived quite in the moment, and when people have pried a bit into her past, she's kind of dodged it a little bit. I don't know how obvious that's been, so we'll see.
Obvious to me, because Six keeps trying to push her to talk about it, because and we'll get to this later, I'm sure, but he's sort of naturally either. Yeah, no, I don't think that's his style, is it? Like eventually, like he just has to ask, because that's his way. He's sort of absolutely. I suppose he's curious and he finds secrets to possibly. And
they're still technically your neighbours as well.
What's
that? That's true.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. God, I didn't even put it through that lens, is it? So that's really fascinating. Yeah.
We'll chat more probably about the relationships between the party, but it is one of the reasons why her and Seed got on so well, because Seed was very closed about her background, and I think that's one of the reasons why Faeza and Seed were kind of quite close. It's because they kind of shared that. No, you don't need to know about my past. Oh, I know I don't need to know about your past. That's okay. I'll just take you as you are.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
nice.
So that's kind of where Faeza came from.
I thought you might have chosen the name because when you knock someone out, you could be like, set Faeza to stun, pow,
no,
and then
not at all.
All right, well, you can keep that one in the.
I'll keep it. I'll put it in. Yeah, I'll put it in pocket number 20.
In one of her many pockets. Yeah,
one of her many pockets.
Yeah.
Brad, after watching The Incredibles, Brad Bird over here. After watching The Incredibles, thank you very much. How did you get the inspiration for Octavius? And playing a druid as well, because if you ever
druid was purely because I've never played a druid before. It's like I'm still just going through the classes ones I've not played. Eventually I'll play them all. I'll pick a favorite and I'll probably just play that forever then.
That seems like your style, Brad. Yeah.
Like Johnny in Wizards, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So you haven't found your wizard yet, basically.
I
Brad,
haven't.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoyed the fighter that last time I played it, so we'll see.
But that was very personality based. Was it? You're talking about Palm, are you?
Yeah, and I think there was a little bit of Palm crossover into Octavius.
The dry sense of humour, maybe, or something, or the sort of
the sort of not really understanding that you can say some things with subversion.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I didn't really start off with any specific inspiration. I went through character creation very logically. So I create the class first, and then I decide what's the goal of the character, and then I decide what fits into both of those.
Do you do this for all your characters, or is it just was it just this particular one?
Personality is always born out of what the class is and what the goal is, and what little bit of details I fill in at random. Which is it's probably a very old school D&D way of creating a character. Is deciding on the class,
Dan, can you
a bit
confirm?
of randomness, and then deciding on your personality after. But I don't know. The interesting thing that always came out of it was that I wanted to try the new druid class, the subclass with the fire spirit, and then I thought I kind of want to be human, and then the Tasha's Cauldron came out, and you could be any species and put in any modifiers, and so I thought, okay, I'll be a what do you call it? Fire Ganassi, but I was a human. So I was a human until I inherited the spirit, which is something that has been teased in, I suppose. And then when I inherited the spirit, I got the flame hair, I got the fire resistance.
Yeah, sure.
And then it's all about discovering. See, I don't know most of what's going to happen in the future. I didn't tell Johnny anything of what I really wanted. I just said, I don't really know what the spirit is. I know that it's from my mother. Go for it. Show me what you got. And
oh yeah, like, did you try and subtly put in a Rick and Morty reference in there? Did you?
You know me, I'm fitting references where I can, when I can. So.
No, that's fair, Brad. That makes sense because that's your style, isn't it? You love to be surprised. You love to sort of like let the dice sort of fall.
Yeah, I don't think about it. I don't think about it. I just play the game, which is cross purposes to an actual stream sort of showy sort of thing because I don't know, it's a bit weird. But
no, I think it takes all sorts, right? And that's what I love about it. Like we all come at it from a different angle, and like Christine was saying, it's really clever to sort of incorporate a character that is learning, so that you can learn sort of the intricacies of D&D and
characters have always got to have a flaw or a lead in or something to pull them along.
Yeah,
whether that's
what's
learning,
Octavius's
whether
flaw?
That's Octavius's lead in is he's never experienced the world.
Yeah,
he's a kid from a noble family who got shoveled into the military at a young age and has never left until now. So
leaving the military was almost like his rebellion, like from the life that he was set.
He just didn't. Yeah, he didn't agree with the direction that it was taking. So he passed up a promotion, which his brother got.
Okay,
and that's the leading into the story.
And that's why we left with that basket in charge.
Yeah.
What about you, Dan?
Yeah.
We talked, but how early did we sort of come to the idea that we were brothers?
I was really actually quite keen. So in almost the opposite of Brad's way, I was really keen to work out what the connection of my character would be to other people. I always feel it like no, I don't always feel that's an absolute lie. I thought in this particular case, it'd be really nice to have a connection with someone in the team so that at least two characters walked in established with each other, if that makes any sense. Because like otherwise it would have been 5-6 people all walking in, not knowing what they're doing, not knowing each other, and then it becomes a very difficult. You have to really work hard to want to be a group. And I think with the forcing of being a brother, and I think we all three talked about it, didn't we? Because obviously I am related to Sean and Ryan, and
yes,
I think we talked all about one of us being related, I was really cool for that. And I think, Sean, you picked up on that first. And I was really keen to have that sort of familial, because we are as well. We were bringing bits of us, right? We were bringing the Anglo-Indian, but we're also bringing that family idea. And I think you might have come up with the idea that we'd lost a mother and going through.
I didn't have to dig too deep to.
You didn't have to dig too deep for that.
Backstory.
But also,
but it made sense, didn't it? It didn't feel out of place. It felt like it was the thing that galvanized the two brothers after they hadn't seen each other for some time, right?
Yeah. And obviously we wanted to make this Bahubali esque thing. So I was looking at making a character that was just could potentially do ridiculous things like Bahubali does on screen. And so I thought I'd be a monk because they do ridiculous things as part of the class, and also it filled out what we had got going. So we didn't have a rogue, and he kind of acts a little bit like that sort of stealthy roguey kind of person. But it was mainly to fill that. But really, I just really liked the idea of this lost little boy. I was talking to my friend Joffrey today about this stream actually, and we were talking about how all the different people's characters and how they all fill a part of our lives in juxtaposition to things that we want. So like, I'm not talking for everyone, but I am a man who is at the very moment quite busy, and like there's structure and things that I have to do. Like I'm, on a daily basis, my schedule is rammed. And I know that's probably true for a lot of people. So my escapism here is to create a character that literally has no schedule, has no agenda, and it's like finding his. Again, a lot of us are finding the way in the world. A lot of innocent, younger people finding their way in the world. But his way is to go with the flow, a leaf on the wind, and that kind of built into these. The structure of that monk class that I was building, I'd seen a new, like Brad Tasha's was coming out, and there was a new monk subclass, and it fed into some of the story
it's a really nice class,
Yes, that Six and Laka are going to build towards, and we're seeing a little bit of that with the scripture that they end up reading out. So yeah, it all fed in, and then of course it was trying to be a little bit overly heavy on Indian mythology, which is why he has 6 arms, and his name is obviously Lakrishnu, and they are both sort of deity names that have been crushed together. So it was really hit heavy with the old Indian stick, as it were. But I thought it for one person there to be quite heavy on that would lend that flavour, and Johnny was really open with it. So and yeah, we've got. I mean, we're hinting towards it, and maybe we'll talk about it another time or a bit later about Lack's schooling and where he comes from, and that there's a little bit more to him than meets the eye, as all characters are really. But yeah, so it was cool, and then saffron had to be used, didn't it? We were using the spices that were going on, so that created his clothing.
Most precious thing.
More expensive than gold.
More expensive per kilo, yeah. Oh, per gram, isn't it? Per kilo.
Yeah, you don't want a kilo of saffron. That's gonna set you back a bit. So that, and that, I think that led. I'm going to pass over to sort of Ryan or Sean, but that led to how we created our characters, I think.
Well, you guys are brothers. So Sean, I know you've.
Well, I wanted to create a character that felt like a little bit more. Like maybe the army had anglicized him slightly more, so like, or maybe not anglicized him, maybe that's the wrong term, but the sort of more freewheeling and free parts of Lack, that maybe the army just took that out of him and made him a little stricter. So my touchstone for me was we have lots of different family members, and if you take about sort of 10 or 15% out of each of them, at the sort of uncle and auntie level, and I mean blood auntie and uncle, I don't mean like sort of Asian auntie and uncle, although there's plenty of those too. But you take 10 or 15% of them and put them together, and you've got sort of who I felt like I wanted to try and connect. It sounds a bit wanky, but I wanted to connect to through the work. So I wanted to try and channel, some of those.
And we quite often would not imitate, that's not the right term, but their quirks we find hilarious in our family, and we always will.
They're the most unique and individual and sort of headstrong and sort of like sure in themselves people I know.
Yeah.
So I was like, I've got to find a way to feel that connection. Yeah, you're right. It's almost like a sort of, I can't believe how, like, confident isn't even the right word, but I'm sure anyone of like Asian heritage will sort of understand what we're saying.
Yeah, like, knowledgeable, but without
immigrant
but
pride,
not lying,
guess,
but not lying. It's very like, I know this because I'm good at it, and I'm going to tell you what it is because I'm good at it. It's not
I'm
like
definitely channeling
try
that
and
into Six.
lie about it.
Definitely. And I'm sure we had a conversation with Taj. This is a little while ago. We went out for dinner, and he sort of said something. He's of Anglo-Bangladeshi descent, and he said something along the lines of to me, "Why is Sixsmith so annoying?" And I was laughing. I was like, "Listen, I can tell you why he's annoying, but go on. Like, what do you want to sort of say?" And he goes, "I mean it in a good way, because Six reminds me of some of the male relatives on my relatives on the sort of the dad's side. Sort of reminds me of these uncles, these male relatives." And I was like, perfect. The kind of annoying that Sixsmith is. Thank God I was going for it. Yeah, this sort of some of his dogma or some of his doctrine, I suppose. Some of his ideas are very sort of strict and imposed. And the trouble with Six, I think, and I'll go back to his creation in a minute, but like some of his problems is that sometimes he's right and sometimes he's not. And I'm not sure that
But he doesn't act any differently depending whether he is.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. So so that creates a lot of fun.
And we did decide a little bit on that, didn't we, with the older younger brother energy? Quite early on.
Yeah, definitely. And even though we talked about it a lot, there's nothing quite like getting to the game and figuring out how it works,
Yeah.
And like, because we had lots of other sort of ideas of things we would say and things we would do, and then a lot of it just went, and then we just sort of found a better rhythm in a way, didn't we?
The vibes have always been sort of like Darjeeling Limited sort of vibes in my eyes.
What's that? What, the two of them like on like an escapade together or something?
Yeah, like because the Darjeeling Limited is like a very similar story. It's funny now you say it. It's three brothers that are lost a parent, and they're traveling across the country with the ashes to visit all the places that they used to have been.
And I don't mind seeing them too as characters in like a Wes Anderson film. Like, you can see them both; they're both completely ridiculous when you pull them out of their environments, right? Which I sort of like as well.
All D&D characters are. That's
they are.
That's the point.
Yeah.
We had got a running gag. It was obviously pre-COVID because you were around the house and we were chatting. And maybe was it in the summer when we were allowed to see each other?
Yeah, it was in the summer we were allowed to see each other, and we were talking about the running gag of the what mother used to say jokes. And this actually comes from, it was at my graduation. We went out for dinner, and it was me, Sean, mum and dad, and then our mum said, I can't remember what in the context of it, but our mum said, well, you know what they say, lightning does strike twice.
Yeah. You know what they say? Sometimes lightning does strike twice. And we were like, no, that's the opposite of the saying. In fact, it's the polar opposite of the saying. You've got it completely backwards.
And we laughed about this, and then they sort of said that should be one of the things that that you guys would do between you. Some person set up the phrase, and the other person try and improvise and knock it down. And it's come up with so many like amazing, ridiculous phrases. And we genuinely laughed so much about it that Dan's wife came to the bedroom and told us out
in a dressing gown, was like, it's too late. Going to sleep.
It was a good night. So a lot of Six and then by extension Ripper were created like around those sort of sessions face to face, which is what we haven't been able to do for such a long time.
Yeah,
it feels like. And I miss like the session zero around the table with people, which again we were lucky enough to do when we saw Johnny recently. Like, that was for a Star Wars one. That was really nice. But I really miss a good session zero face to face. It's like, it's much more than just talking about the game. It's
just about anything face to face.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah. It feels very special. It's like a stag do or something. You feel like at the end of it you've done, or a hen do or whatever. At the end of it you feel like you connected deeper. I'm saying lots of wank. I mean it though.
Yeah.
Sounds wanky,
You're
but
saying
I
lots of wanky
absolutely
things.
mean it though. I mean it.
It's because you created something together and you all galvanized it with your thoughts in
All right, you
one
ruined it
place.
now.
Yeah.
You ruined it.
So Johnny making a note for his next NPC.
Yeah,
episode.
that's true. Yeah. So even though we're before the watershed, I'll let you know about Ripper. And as you guys have very much, because all of you have one way or another have played as Ripper, and and that I think is you sort of get it, and you've all said it. There's a very fine line between what is Ripper and what is Brian, and I think Ripper was born out of two things. One was this sort of wanting to play a bit of a face character because I sort of heard what everyone else is playing. I was like, we haven't got one. But then I still wanted to keep him a striker and sort of still wanted to, because that's my sort of favorite class. I'm not really much of a magic user. And
Ryan likes to hit things hard.
I
That's
like to hit.
it.
I like to hit things. And then also it was born out of, Ryan's a horny man. So it's born out of horniness as well, right? Ripper.
It's not obvious. That's not in
No.
instantly obvious.
No, it's not. So Ripper was essentially what I wanted Ripper's original plan to be. Was his whole thing was that he wanted to bang a god. That was his whole thing, right? And
which is great for a one shot, right, around the table with
or a two shot,
like
if you catch my drift. But
that was good actually.
Thank you very much.
Genuinely good. Wasn't set up. I appreciate.
Well, I thought like, and I'd listened to NADPod, and they one of the characters in that had played a paladin in the sort of main story, and I was like, actually, it's quite a cool class that you're a utility person as well as a frontliner. You're not you can still get up there and you still got fight. You've got 2 attacks and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, well, let me make this horny paladin. But I sort of wanted him to, if he's a paladin, he's not so much a cleric, so he's not preaching, but he needs to sort of have some tenets and some guidance with his sort of life. And I, sort of everyone's modern, you'd probably love him calling this, but modern prophet is, oh my God, I've completely fucking forgotten his name. Russell Brand, thank you very much.
Yes.
See, your character's so good.
Exactly.
Good.
So there's sort of the idea of like a modern prophet that we sort of have, sort of good with his words, was an ex-sex pest, was like, or sexual fiend, should we say. But, and I sort of wanted to do that. And then Sean and Dan were like, all right, look, this goes out before 9 o'clock. So just, let's, and they were like, why don't you make him, that's true. Very true. Oh damn! Maybe I should go back to that.
No, it's earlier in America.
Oh yeah,
breakfast viewing.
So they were like, "Why don't you make him like a love paladin?" So it's not like about getting his rocks off. It's about people and like the love you get from having people around you and making people smile. And I think that's sort of why Ripper in himself is always trying to crack a joke. He's always trying to get people up or do something. He's always trying to chat to people, and it works. It works mechanically as well. Then I thought it was a nice sort of meandering character that could sort of help and be with everyone, and that plays that sort of cheeky chappy that doesn't is able to sort of get away with some of the stuff that other the things Six wouldn't say, or the things Lack doesn't have the confidence to say, or Octavius doesn't even know how to say. And it's just like that sort of
even as you're talking about him, I was struck by 2 things about Ripper. One is that if it's a possibility, the way mechanically you want to build it, it seems a missed opportunity not to like multi-class into Bard for him, because he is so inspirational with his chat. To actually have a mechanical sort of match that. And also I was thinking through the whole show, and that Ripper's always trying to do that. He's always trying to talk up people. And when he's most effective is when he's doing that for other people. And when he's least effective is when he's doing that for himself. Do you know what I mean? When it goes against his action. I don't know whether you're doing it deliberately.
Well,
his tenets of sort of spreading love as opposed to trying to receive the love.
Yeah,
which is really interesting.
And that's why I sort of do all the. I originally thought of, and I originally wanted him to be, and I still sort of do. I want him to sort of be like an influencer, like an Instagram influencer. That's why I've sort of gone for the purples and blues in his character, because I sort of want him. And I think his character description is Chinella's next top influencer or something like that. And I, unfortunately, Brad had the idea of taking a bird, because what I wanted was like a bird that would chisel notes about everything that he's done and leave him everywhere, like Twitter comments, like everywhere he went. And then Brad
I
was
really
like,
love that
Was it be a
idea, and
little
I don't
bluebird?
think that was.
yeah,
Yeah,
would it,
exactly.
would have been a little
It's-
bluebird that would have like a woodpecker.
I mean,
that
the
would have
spirit's
chiseled.
not even that active, so it would have still worked, I think.
But I think it would have been, and he just left them everywhere. And then, someone years later on would have dredged one of the old
You
boards
should
up and
have-
gone,
you
"Oh,
should
you
have
said
talked to me
this so
about
many
it.
years ago."
The
and then-
spirit can be anything, by the way. You should have talked to me about it.
That's all right.
Hey,
It's all right.
I think there's,
But then
there's
out
scope
of
for that
that-
to come together later on when they
Yeah.
bond more, right?
And then
Like,
out
yeah,
of that,
yeah,
it's
for
sort of
sure.
the it's nice how the direction of characters. And actually, I didn't go for anything. Like I think I'm one of the basic paladin classes. I think Oath of Devotion is one of
Sweet.
the OG ones. I think everyone else has ripped away from artificers and new books and things like that. And so I think it's been really fun though. But and so that's where his sort of estuary style accent comes from, the sort of Russell Brand inspiration to sort of play that character. So that's.
But yeah, so he has been blossoming. Yeah, Dan's right. He's been blossoming, like I would say, over the last sort of, I don't know how many sessions, because we've done lots of other things in between. But every time Ripper gives something to someone else and sort of supports the team, it makes more of a difference than anyone else. So like Faeza, you do it, but Faeza's got like Toots to look after. It's got like sort of the weight of Seed on her shoulders and other sorts of things, right? So like normally the artificer would help, and you do help, but like when Ripper does it, it feels like an extension of his character, and I really like that. And of course, it might blossom to be like when we get to Hawthorne and other sorts of characters, my center and Hawthorne, we meet with both of those. Like maybe some Faeza will go into some sort of
it's really
change,
interesting that you based him on an influencer whose main job is to be seen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like so they're an influencer they call themselves an influencer, but what they actually are doing is like attracting people to look at them.
Other things.
Well, they
it's
look
that,
at
but
them
then also if
and
you're
then
like
they
promoting
promote.
for
Then
other
they
things.
promote other
Yeah.
things, don't they?
So I think that's where I've always cracked a joke about Octavius being the most eligible bachelor, and do the intros and a sort of will jump at that chance.
And that I find really interesting, because then it's the positive side of that, which is big upping other people, like spreading that love.
Yeah.
And
as like when you helped us on the ship
then
recently, right?
It's
That
the
was
opposite
good.
of the need, isn't it? Which I think is great. Do you know what I mean? Using the power for good.
And someone sort of so one of my friends, good friends, Kerry, I've always said that he's an incredible hype man to have around, because if he spots you doing something awesome, or it's like there with you when something happens, like he'll always regale that tale, like with you, without you, he'll talk about ridiculous things, won ridiculous beer pong tournaments together, and like I like when we were on a ship, I like Kobe'd a tissue onto a massive pile of other tissues and not a single one fell, and it was like that ridiculous sort of stuff. And so I like the idea of like having this, being this hype man for everybody as well, this sort of like boxer coming into the ring, like getting all the crowd going before it sort of happens. Great question from Taj in the chat. Is there a woman out there that can tame Ripper? I think
Or is there a
I
person?
read that one.
Yeah, that's
person,
a bit of an
yeah.
assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right, there it is.
I mean, probably is the answer. Who knows?
Have
There
we
might be-
met a character yet that could tame Ripper? That's a good question.
I don't know.
I
Tame...
think Avantika, maybe. Although he'd be
but Six has got
he'd be
designs on
fighting
Avantika.
Six. Yeah,
not
he'd be
not
fighting
perhaps in
Six
that
for
way,
those
but
intentions.
still like
I think whoever it was, because Ripper tends to kind of ignore what people think of him and just goes for it. So I think whoever it was would have to be somebody that Ripper holds in high enough esteem to care what they think about him.
Interesting.
I think.
Yeah.
I think there's one person that's up there that he knows what he cares about him, but we'll find out. Who knows? Maybe, I don't know. I think intentionally for that reason, Johnny didn't put like an Aphrodite character in there, because he knew that that's what Ripper would be hunting. But I don't know. It's a great question, Taj. I think we'll have to see. We'll have to see how sexy Johnny gets in the future episodes.
I've seen him get sexy sometimes, and it's made my skin crawl. I love you, Johnny, but I don't want to see you be sexy, if that's all right. Can you just intimate sexiness, please? Like you're reading on a Wikipedia page. That's
Fade to black is basically.
yeah, exactly.
Johnny's just put that the name of Avantika came from Bahubali, because it's also of note of probably our closest competitors. Critical
Oh yeah,
Role.
yeah.
They borrowed a lot from us, didn't they? Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to be an inspiration, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
They were like,
it
"Oh,
feels good.
there's too many white people on this stream. Let's change it up."
My favourite thing is that we've raised them up to. We've stayed humble.
Yeah.
But they go, and we're happy for them.
And we'll always be the best at being humble, won't we? Like really.
Yeah.
If you think
It's,
about
I reckon modesty is probably my top trait.
Yeah.
I'd agree. Yeah.
So we've had a lot. We've done a lot since the Falling Leaves Festival of the Falling Leaves. To go through some of the examples, we had a wonderfully huge journey to get to Cinderbane. We all took a massive bath together, or most of us did. We have then defeated plagues. We found out we've done some investigative, not journalism. What's the word? Detective
We
work.
need to do some investigative journalism at some point.
I think we need to do that. Let's do some
we'll have like a
investigative journalism.
spotlight all the President's Men series, right? Where
Yeah.
we just like
I'm
really
gonna blow the story
expose
wide
something.
open.
Yeah. Do you know what it's going to be? It's going to be coming back round to Chinella when we've got Octavius's evil brother in charge and everything's wrecked, and
we'll do like a courtroom
from the
drama.
ground up using exactly using the
Walk
law.
in, stop right
the law.
there.
Objection.
We've gone to Cinderbane. We then got arrested. We almost got put into a fighting pit. We missed the opportunity to fight a manticore and then fought one again later on. We delved into a cave. There's been a lot that's
We
actually
almost got put
happened.
into another fighting pit, and then afterwards several episodes later we almost got put into a fighting pit.
Yeah,
and we've been
See where
definitely
this is
avoiding
going.
fighting pits.
yeah.
Much to
Much to Ryan's
disappointment.
dismay. Yeah.
Ryan only thinks it's a D&D game if he hits something.
Yes.
That's a general.
But
rule,
that's
isn't it?
because you set the precedent down with such excellent combat.
I'll take that. Thank you.
episodes.
That is true.
So,
That is true. The
there you go.
first games we ever played, we played with you, Dan, and you've what's fascinating is sort of Johnny has been DMing about as long as I've been playing. So like I'm learning as a player as he's learning as a DM. But to have someone like yourself as well that we can all learn from. And I'm waiting for the day you have time to do something on the stream as well.
It's gonna be such a disappointment when I do, isn't it?
Isn't it? I shouldn't have talked you up. I should have gone, shit, mate. Yeah.
Hey, that's Ripper's job to hype people up, isn't it?
I like to keep quiet about it and let everyone.
So I think a
enjoy
couple
their
of
lives.
questions for everyone. What's been some of the cool shit we've done that people can check out? What's I think for me, for example, when we, yes, it was combat heavy, but when we went to the zombie village and we all did cool shit at the zombie village, Chinella drifting,
Enderian spin.
yeah, the Enderian spin, and then drifting.
What was that? We were going to
we've still
fire
got the
someone
Banyet.
at the.
No, that's the
Banyet.
Banyet. That's the Banyet slingshot. We haven't done that one yet.
That's
The
gonna be
Banyet slingshot is still
where the
yet to
two
come.
brothers have to hoik Ripper into the air.
No, other way around.
I still go back to episode. I think episode 5 is still my favorite. I don't know why.
What happened in episode 5?
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, it's a long time. Well, first of all, Toots came along. That was exciting.
Yeah, Toots.
But it was also we were in. I think we were in Cinderbane, but it was there was a lot of tavern stuff. There was a lot of there was Seeds song. Like she had a song in it.
Oh shit!
But it was like I think we just started getting into the swing of it. I think because the foundation had kind of not fallen away. We were still built. We still are building stuff. For 40 episodes in, but I think then it was like there were like a lot of character moments that just kind of popped. Kind of like okay, that's who that person is. It was really nice because actually we've been
Was
doing
that
this.
still during the time of Kale?
Yes.
Yes.
Chaos. Yeah. So I think but I mean, what's really nice about this is I've there's loads I've found out about your characters that I didn't know about, and we've been doing it like 11 months.
And there's still so much to go, which I think is
Oh my
interesting.
goodness, yeah, it was brilliant. Oh dear, but yeah.
And Brad and Sean have gone through so many haircuts in that time. It's been
No, it's unbelievable.
I've
lack
gone
of
through
lack
two. It's
thereof.
just an ever-changing hairstyle.
And it's the
called
facial
growing.
hair as well. I mean,
Yeah,
it
your
was November,
Facial hair's
but,
changed week by week.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
true.
much.
I
know, I
miss the
try and-
moustache times.
Well,
Yeah.
it's November again
yeah.
soon.
Shit,
very
it
true.
is.
It
And
is.
do you know what? If those people that said no last year, if they say no 2 years in a row, then they're utter scumbags, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's just how it works. I mean, I
Christine.
didn't,
I know. Look, all right. I just wasn't in the right frame of mind last
I'm
year.
here.
Listen, I grew my moustache, but we didn't get enough money for me to show it on stream.
Yeah, that's true.
No. So we're hoping to get what if we double what we got last time, you'll show it on screen, will you?
Yeah, but we have to set it as a hot tub stream, and then we're fine.
OnlyFans. We'll put it on the OnlyFans account. Yeah.
On the Blood and Song OnlyFans account. Yeah, I mean, well, so yes, amazing moments. I think as I said, like some of the early stuff was really good, where we were establishing our characters, and some of Seek's songs are absolutely fantastic.
I know it was nothing to do with Six, so it's a weird thing for me to pick up, but when. And I think a DM obviously has to know the right times to say no, because they're almost in some ways like a parent or like a
Johnny
like a
has
helpful...
to do it twice as much as any other DM.
Yes, I know. Yeah, and that's why it's a tough job for him. In fact, perhaps it's more like a sort of like a cool uncle, sort of like a cool uncle or auntie. But sometimes they do have to, they have to say no. But when a DM says yes, that's really special to me. Like like when Johnny goes away, thinks about it, and comes back. And he says, "Oh, by the way, Sean," and let's just take a moment to realize that he's given me Iron Man armor. Like, that's amazing. Like, I can't, when I'm playing the game, I can't really nerd out about it, but that is fucking amazing. I've got armor that can come to me magnetically, and then I can oh man, I'm gonna look even cooler. And Six looked quite cool in battle, which again, not playing a fighter very much before, ever before rather. Like, I've not felt cool in combat before, really, the same way. So, yeah, I get where you're coming from, Ryan. But so when Johnny said yes to the Chinella drifting, that for me was the first moment where we all had this let's just fucking go nuts. In this battle.
And I think we had we had the conversation of it being quite straight. I think in the sort of and rules was written, and we're having to sort of be and do things certain ways. And then I think it was just that was one of those ridiculous things that actually it doesn't matter, because if everyone's having fun around the table, what does it matter?
First Bahubali moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And those have been some cracking times, I think. And also, are there any NPCs that you guys have fallen in love with along the way?
Nimble. I love Nimble.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Appearing out of nowhere all the time, wasn't he? Yeah. We kept forgetting he was about.
I love Treacle. Treacle, do you know what it is? It also, it's the synthesis of character and Johnny's accent. Like when Johnny nails an accent, he'd be the first to tell you that his shaky accents are the funniest and the most interesting. But when he nails an accent, with Treacle that was absolutely my favorite NPC. I think probably.
I had a lot of love for Rory. Who wasn't called Rory? Do you remember?
Oh, he's definitely called Rory.
Rory.
Canon.
Not his name. I can't remember his real name. I don't think I ever wrote it down because
it's totally Rory.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore.
But
rest in power, Rory.
That's very true. But I mean, I love the NPCs that help us. But I genuinely we keep calling him the Angel because no one can ever remember his name. But it's Kellenar, who was the guy that we met down in that dungeon.
Sorry.
But that whole is he good or is he not? I genuinely was sat there just going, I don't know, and I still don't know.
I love it. Yeah, you're right, actually, because did I lay it on too thick in the last episode? I had to message and be like, was that too thick? When I was I thought it would be funny for Sixsmith to apologize before the reveal that we all genuinely don't know yet. That when Lack, and also we don't as people, our characters definitely don't know, but we don't really know what Off Loki's talking about, really, and we don't know whether he's telling the truth, and we don't know, how much more Lack knows, right?
Johnny's just put his full name in the chat. It's Cal Manar Ombas Oil.
It's not what he's written.
That's the stuff you put on the pillow, isn't it?
Ombas Oil.
Is that some? That's just some obscure thing you put in the wok before you cook a meal, isn't it?
I do love a bit of Ombas Oil, let's be honest. But yeah, fascinating. Yeah, characters where the allegiance is, and I know Johnny loves this, and so to have been able to put it forward in a way that creates tension between the characters is awesome. That's such an achievement as a DM, right?
And it's also that thing where there's that element of fear, but so I know how Faeza would react because she's just like, well, he's chained up, he's got to be all right, and he's told us that he's innocent. So I'm like, I know what I have to do, but I don't want her to die. So it's I just have to follow what she's gonna do. So I still don't know if that's gonna bite us up on the arse.
It 100% will do. That's the whole point of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll come on to future arcs in a minute, and sort of we can chat about some of that after the break as well. But we've just got a question from Taj. What accent should Johnny master and use in the game?
What?
So many.
What?
So many.
Should he master one that he's already done that was shit, or should he start
I think
one?
he should do Northern Irish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You reckon?
Because I think I let myself down. That's my one big regret. For if anyone wants to go back and see our two-parter, the Lasers and Feelings we did, that all of you guys were just absolutely
Those
stonking and
accents,
phenomenal.
spot on.
Just everyone was amazing. But I think I let myself down with that Northern Irish accent. I really do. So I want to hear Johnny.
I've got a suggestion. Has anybody ever watched the TV series Still Game? It was a BBC Scotland.
I've seen
series.
bits of it. Yeah. It's on Netflix,
Yeah.
I think.
So there's the shopkeeper who is Naveed, and he is Indian Scottish, and I love that accent so much. He talks about getting pished. I'm not even going to attempt it because I context is everything, and I'll just be accused of being racist. But it's brilliant.
Right.
I think you should.
When we get to Indiri, there has to be a whole
village.
village that speak in
man.
Indian Scottish.
Yeah.
Like in The
already-
Witcher, when you go to the Celtic island, basically,
Yeah.
and they all like with the Kraken crates and all that, and they all have
Yeah.
like really thick accents, and like
Yeah.
that's what he needs to do.
Those mixture accents are always the best. There's a bloke that I did work with. Like he wasn't at the company, but like I worked with him. He lived in Northern Ireland, but he was Spanish, so he had a Spanish Northern Ireland accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
super odd.
Yeah.
That's
I had
really
a
interesting.
friend who was
Tars
Finnish.
is... Sorry,
She-
go on, you go first.
Oh, that's all right. She was Finnish, but she'd been taught at an international school. So she kind of had a Finnish accent, but it would really, really flick into American, just on odd words. Oddest thing ever.
Yeah.
Enjoyed that one.
Taj has told Johnny to learn Navajo, and he has to learn a bit of the language and use in the game.
I like that. I like
That's
that.
pretty
Borderline
good. Yeah,
dangerous.
pretty good.
I like it.
We're
Johnny's
borderline
declared his hatred
dangerous.
for all of us. So
I mean, we might as well go like Australian Aborigine then, as
Yeah.
well.
I think throw them all in.
Just throw them all in.
Indigenous.
he just
So he
doesn't
can't
get
get
Indigenous
cancelled
Australian,
if he insults loads of people at once, right? That's how it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah,
It cancels
yeah,
it
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
We've all
Just
got
have to,
alright. We've all got that one accent that we know will insult everybody, but we love doing it.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm not going
We
to
all
say
do.
what mine is, but I've definitely got it.
Mine's South African. I'm quite happy to say that.
But
Your South African's
you
pretty
have
Your
done
good.
that
South
on
is
the
okay.
It's not insulting, I don't think. I think it's accurate.
And you've already done it on screen. As well.
No, yeah, I don't mind doing it.
Yeah.
I have no
I
problem
think
doing
Brad's
it.
just
I have
trying
no
to
problem
subtly
being
drop in-
offensive.
He wants
we
everybody
just-
to go, oh, go on, do the accent, Brad, so
No,
that you
I'm
can
not.
bust out.
No, we won't do that. I
Thanks,
think
Sean.
yeah.
Now everybody
So
does
I
think
think
that.
to be fair, there's been some
Do it
fantastic
for you.
NPCs that.
And
Johnny
Ryan's like, no,
has
look, I'm
resurrected.
hosting this, all right? It's over. Move on.
Yeah, sharp. There's been some fantastic NPCs that obviously he has created that we will look forward to. I know that, and look forward to returning as well. We've got Gaius, who we haven't even met yet properly. So that's going to be interesting
Yeah.
to sort of see that come through. And who knows, as we find out to see my center, and then what I imagine is similar to the training center in Ninja Assassin, but that is basically where we meet Lax Master. And I, as well, I think maybe when we meet Sean's and we meet Six's group of the hand.
Yeah, I don't know.
think
shall I-
you're going
I-
to have to do all the accents for all those people, I think.
Well, so what I did is because I love creating. Everybody loves creating characters, right? So I created, and I was trying to do the backstory. So I went into D&D Beyond, and I created because Johnny sent me the Interior Army sort of structure, and he said you can be a captain of like a small team, but it can't be like you can't have a battalion or anything because of like how low you are in level and stuff, which made sense. So you can be like captain of the hand, and and there's different ranks. So like the ninth hand, for example, is the one that I am. So I thought, okay, well, if you've got the hand, it must be, it's the hand of the king or the hand of the god king, and there's all sorts of things that Johnny, I'm sure, will love to reveal when he gets down to it. But I was like, well, in any cool movie, like you've got your team that you left behind. So I was like, I've got to do this for my own character. So I created each finger is a different member of the team, and then there's the knuckle, which sort of binds the rest of the team when the sort of captain is away. And I've got like there's like there's like a gunslinging, how do you pronounce it, an aarakocra, the bird. It's like a gunslinging bird, or a cockcrow. There's a sort of a shape-shifting werewolf man. There's like I wanted it to feel like a sort of, like in Blade 2 or whatever, you've got the blood pack. I wanted it to feel like this heightened sort of team.
Like your A team, aren't you, basically? Like your
basically
sort of ragtag group of
little
mercs.
ragtag sort of, and we sort of do good around in here, and we go and sort of peacekeeping missions and stuff. Sort of a bit of a Rogue One sort of feel of a team. So at some point, I'm sure, although we're nowhere near there yet, but at some point, one or two of them will come back to find out if I have extended over my leave or not, or maybe they'll come to get me to tell me that there's something going on, or who knows how they're going to be introduced. I don't know. I'm sure Johnny's got some great plans, but it'd be exciting when some of that team comes in, and then some of that interplay is what.
And I think everybody's dropped, a bit of history. Obviously, we've gone through Chinella, and we know about Gaius. I've, very briefly mentioned my family, and so wonder how that will play in. And so there's sort of interesting. Let's have a chat about arcs after the break. But just before the break, I'd like to know, and you can let us know in the chat as well, who have been your favorite pairing of characters? So recently we've had a lot of Faeza and Sixsmith recently, and sort of, is that the ship, the character ship that we have expected, or which character interactions have you guys loved?
I think, Faeza and Lack paired up quite early on. That was really, really lovely. But I think Faeza as a character was kind of attracted to the people who weren't authority figures in the group, if that makes any sense, or weren't too imposing. And that's partly to do with the backstory, but also because she's quite a politely spoken person most of the time. She has her moments of recklessness, but other than that, she's kind of quite that way. So to her, Octavius and Six are just not in her world. they're just not in her brain. But then her and Six had done a full-on argument about something they both felt very strongly about for the first time. And so now it's like, okay, this I think it's reached the point where they want to try and figure each other out. So I mean, if when it comes up to one of these big kind of character meetings of minds, as it were, I think we did. This is the first time I've ever actually had to have a sit down, because our characters are so different. But other than that, Faeza and Seed, again, they're quite
close,
naive, quite trusting, and just sort of like very. Although they've got history, the pair of them have got huge history behind each other, and they still take people as they are, and so they understood the same language of each other. Do you know what I mean? They were like, "Oh, I'm going to go do this." Okay, that was it.
And also, Faeza and Seed kept each other's secrets, but in a way that felt, like you said earlier on, like was out of respect rather than out of sort of like anything else. Completely. So
I mean, when we were chatting, it was more. We've said it before, like, Faeza is curious about everything. She wants to stick it. I mean, she even went underwater at the baths to figure out how the pipes worked. But her curiosity, her friendship for Seed overrode that curiosity. And she was like, okay, fine. But then they had the scene. They just got into little scrapes together. Like the Seed needed to get more bones, and she doesn't really know why Seed wanted bones. She was like, okay. And they end up going around the market pretending that they've got a dog. To try and get bones, and they're trying to come up with, and the bit where they're trying to come up with names for the dog was just silly. Like,
what did you even name the dog again?
I think it was "Oi, you get off." It was all like they come up with a name that was like something they'd heard someone shout at a dog and thought it was a dog's name. So, so that's what they came up with in the end.
That was great. Yeah, and you could see how like Faeza really like lost a friend and a confidant when Seed sort of left the show, and that was I'm glad we got a chance to sort of reflect as characters on it as well, because it was like the first sort of big dramatic thing to happen to us, as characters, and it was quite sort of it's Johnny and Becki sort of planned it together to make sure that it felt right for both of them and for the game and everything. That was
absolutely.
And so Faeza feels like I think Six has a lot more respect for her. I think now for Faeza.
Yeah, likewise. I think
And
between
yeah.
them, they're sort of going, "You're not how I pegged you," you know,
Yeah.
kind of thing is going on. But yeah.
Yeah, so we had a very talky episode last episode, but I'm grateful for it because, as I'm sure we'll get to later, right? It was at the tail end of Chanella, if you like, in a way. Like sort of.
And I think we haven't seen much pairing of Lack and Octavius.
Oh.
They're polar opposites, really, aren't they?
I know, but
really
I think is that
Yeah.
sort
They're
of
the two mates that
thought
just
about
don't
that
talk to
quite
each
a
other
while
when no one
ago. I
else is
thought,
around. Yeah.
What would Octavius and Lack really talk about?
What would they talk
And
about?
they wouldn't really.
There's
It
a
would be
mute-
the
I
most
think there's a
awkward silence in the world.
Yeah,
That's why they don't talk, right? Yeah.
I think there's a mutual respect. Lax certainly respects Octavius, but it's like genuinely there's always, well, not always, but there's often one in a group where you're like in an extended group of friends. There's one in the group where you're like, I hope I don't get stuck with them at the end of the night on my own in the pub because I just have to book it. I'll have to make an excuse because I've got nothing to talk to them about.
No, what you do is you make sure you get drunk enough that it doesn't matter.
No, but then you say it. Then you say it out loud. Do you know what, mate?
No, we don't have
You're
anything.
the person I wish I
never
wasn't
talk.
here. Well, maybe it's the ship that's still to come.
Yeah,
It might be the
that's
deepest
true.
of all.
I think
With
so.
the largest cargo.
Nah.
Nah. Obviously, I think the ebb and flow of the relationship as brothers between Lack and Six is really interesting. I think there's been a lot of emotions that have come through, and rightly because their characters are on a pilgrimage with their mother's ashes. But even like the fact that they'll try and one up each other and not let the other person know, they'll have those little.
That's a very new Lack
microaggressions
thing, right? That's not a Lack
each other.
thing that they would have done when they were together as kids, like throwing the spear and pulling it back and stuff. Like that's something that like has come out of Lack since he's come out of his monastery and everything. Like so, Six is a little sort of like taken aback by that sort of behavior, in his opinion. But yeah,
and I think it's interesting. And obviously, everyone's favorite relationship, as we all know, is Ripper and Treacle. They're the best. 100%. They're the best two.
We're all here for Ripper and Treacle. That's it. Everybody just turns up each week.
The rest
I think people have turned off now, thinking, "Where's Treacle?"
I think Toots and Treacle haven't managed to have a.
Yeah, there needs to be a bit more beast on beast action, doesn't there?
There's going to be
cards
Toots taking all of Treacle's money in some sort of gambling escapade.
Yes,
that's the other relationship that I wasn't expecting is Octavius and Toots.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah.
To be fair, I expected that more than Octavius and Lack.
Yeah, they've got more in common. Yeah.
Yeah, just a pangolin, just cheating you out of all of your money. Is she cheating though, or is she just good at it? I don't know.
Toots doesn't seem like a
Octavius
cheat,
doesn't know.
I think Toots is. That's the point. You don't think that they would.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe she's playing
under
with
all them
Sweaty
scales.
Rules,
Under all them scales, It's got 5 aces. Okay, we'll jump off to a quick break now. Obviously, keep your comments and questions coming in the chat. It's really interesting to sort of see them, and we'll periodically get to them. If there's anything that you have any burning questions about our characters, about us, about anything that we've talked about in this first half, and then when we come into the second half, like we're coming into the new area in Newmangart, we'll be able to talk about where we think the arcs are going, what we'd like for our characters, and what's next. So we'll see you just after the break.
We're still here. We're still here if you've got all.
Tar's asked a big question, and he's asked it twice, and I think it's something for us to go and think about.
Yes, to ponder. Yeah.
To ponder, which is what do you think is the best? So we've done a lot of character stuff, but I think so we do a bit of mechanical. What do you think is the best multi-class, like the most powerful multi-classing thing as well?
Great.
Maybe one of us could go into that as well. So what do we think? He thinks a monk, bard, paladin. I think monk,
he's going
bard,
for
wizard.
the triple changer.
And I will come back after the thing and tell him why he's absolutely wrong.
I've got one in mind that I've been researching myself, which is pretty bonkers. So,
okay,
yeah.
All right.
Now you can do your out. You can do your out now. Bro.
Well, we'll have a think about all the.
Oh, one more thing, by the way.
Columbo,
Christine, do you want
to give it a rest? All right.
Just roll it. Just do it.
He knows. We'll see you in a minute. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second part of Ripper's Roadside Tavern, where we will chat everything that's happened in the first arc of this season and just some fun stuff about us. But the question was posed at the beginning, before we went for the break, from Taj as to what we think our favorite multi-class or strongest multi-classes might be. I'm going to throw mine out there with very little research because I think it will be awesome and super strong. And obviously, as we know, I'm a big boy striker. Druid Barbarian. Wild shape and rage as like a bear or something like that.
Moon Druid Barbarian is a strong, very strong level 8 character.
Yeah.
That's something I've researched as well.
Yeah. So you could, and then you could, even if you take a couple of the ones that give you like damage when you do stuff, and then just heal yourself up over it. So there's a couple of, so that's my one, but that's only because I love big strong hitter boys. That's my whole thing. Dan, or did anyone else pick one out before Dan crushes us with his knowledge?
So the one that I've been looking at recently, well, there's two. Sorry, Dan. There's two that I've been looking at. Is one is just a basic concept, is a wizard with 2 levels in fighter, because you get axe and surge and you can cast 2 spells in a turn.
Interesting.
I've done no research whatsoever, so I don't know.
What do you think sounds cool?
I think what would be cool is actually if, but I don't know how the levels would be affected. Is if you could combine an artificer who's got all the mechanical knowledge with something that's very nature driven. So you could maybe you could use plants with mechanics in some kind of way. I think that would be pretty cool. But
that's really cool thematically.
Yeah. How that would be achieved. So I'll leave that with you.
Also, let's just grass you up there, because that's not tea in Faeza's tea mug, is it?
No.
It's
I'm not gonna lie, quite often it's not.
Yes. But literally the tea is being spilled. Well,
when we were coming up with the artwork for the characters by Sam, who was amazing, who was found by Johnny, the ideas for the characters were, I don't know how anyone else came up with theirs, but I think being a stage manager working in theatre, mine all came from her props. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when I had my initial chat with Johnny, and then he'd also said about this artwork thing. He said, "Oh, go away, I have some ideas." And Sam was great because he said, get like a mood board almost and get images.
Yeah.
And then he would combine them and come up with your character. And it was like he'd been inside my brain, but the good bit of my brain that I hadn't accessed.
Yes.
To come up with something which was better than what my conscious brain was imagining. But when I was in that interim, I went away because it was during the summer when we were still out. That weird break in between lockdowns. And I walked past a charity shop. And I found 2 of these mugs, and I went, "Oh, that's Faeza's mug right there, isn't it?" And I'd already had the idea that she would have this backpack, and it would be covered in little bits of props. So I told him what I wanted in terms of that and the backpacks and the mugs. And then because I had them, I had to buy the mugs because that would be stupid not to. And so the mugs appear in most episodes. Sometimes they have tea, and that's what I'm saying. Today is a nice Malbec, just so everybody knows.
Oh, very nice. Malbec from a mug.
Flavor of tea.
I like it.
Taj had said monk, bard, wizard, which I think sounds like a bloody great combination in terms of like the person that knows everything, like mind, body, and spirit, or something almost, isn't it?
That's cool. Yeah.
I love that idea, but mechanically it would be really super hard to get right because
you need 4
their
stats.
primary statistic is different. Like monk's hard enough, so monk, as I'm finding, you want dexterity and wisdom to be strong to like anything of yours function. Then you're in battle, so your constitution should probably be decent. And if you're using your fists, and unless you have some spiritual astral arms that come out your back, you're also kind of using strength as well for some of those things.
Yeah.
So
there is a finesse unarmed feat, I think.
Yeah. So, but it's going to cost you, and that's for a monk anyway, then as a wizard, you're going to need high intelligence. Although it's a really great combination because you'd get the unarmored defense of the monk while you were a wizard, so you wouldn't be able to be that would be pretty good.
I mean, there is you could do some weird shenanigans with Blade Singer wizard, and
that would be cool.
You'd use your monk weapon as the same weapon as your Blade Singer weapon,
and you could get
all the
kinds
bonuses from both.
But you start losing spell slots, as Johnny will tell you.
Yeah.
You always want to be getting those higher spell slots, so you get those later. And then if you add Bard, you got to have Charisma high as well. So you're looking at like having 4 statistics decently high. So I think that's the only reason. It sounds like I like the idea of mind, body, and spirit. I like that. It's a great idea. You just have to roll really, really well, I think.
So I've got one that's like very simple, and I sort of go. I think I'm different each time I come up with a character. So I do like Christine. I like to find like a way to slot into the group. Like Brad, I like to sometimes come up with the class first. And then like some of the other people in the group, I like to sort of think, well, how can I have a character that I actually want to play, enjoy the role play of as well. So it's different every time. But I'm dying to play this character. I don't know if we'll touch upon this today. I don't know if Brad, we've fully decided that come November we might be doing a little mini campaign that might take place somewhere else.
We need to sit down and have a chat about it.
Yeah. And I'm really excited to do that. That's the best part anyway, the early stages. But I've got a character I really like the idea of. It's very simple. It's a Minotaur, first of all, obviously, because I'd like to play a Minotaur. But if you take a Minotaur, the idea of a Minotaur, and you fuse it with the character from the Shadow of Mordor and the Shadow of War games. So I like the idea of being an Echo Knight. So you take the fighter, but you just pop a couple in, and you can tell me if this is shit, because I don't know anything about the multiclassing. Pop a couple in Cleric, because I fucking want that Forge Domain Cleric, and I fucking want that bonus action. I want the Scythe. I want the, what's it called? Spiritual weapon. I use it in my other game and I can't remember what it's called. Spiritual weapon as a bonus action, because a lot of fighters don't use their bonus action. Echo
Knights work with anything in the game.
Hey!
As a multi-class.
Echo Knight and Forge Domain Cleric.
And also as an Echo Knight, your Echo is your bonus action. So your bonus action is to make your Echo Knight attack.
Well, no, you can make your Echo Knight attack as your bonus action, or you can use your action to attack from the location where your Echo Knight is, which works really well for some shenanigans with things like barbarians and rogues and paladins, because you can smite or sneak attack from your Echo Knight. Positions. Yeah, it's a really, really versatile class.
Yeah, I was thinking like the having the 3 points of attack, and also maybe having like, it's almost like faux mobility, isn't it? The ability to sort of attack there, also maybe switch with your Echo and stuff like that. I don't think I'm maybe good enough to play it, and maybe there are some limitations, but also I want to play a little bit of Forge Domain Cleric. Like that was.
I'm looking forward to playing the Wild Magic Barbarian, which I think is the sort of an interesting mix and utility, because that wild magic table is ridiculous. The fact that you can teleport as a barbarian if you roll the right number is stupid.
Yeah, but you're a gambler, man, so you like the table of like but it's how often will it pay off that you'll teleport to somewhere else?
It's pretty bonkers. You can also do like, you can turn your great axe into a thrown weapon and throw it at people and recall it back. It's bonkers.
Yeah, but what are the negatives that happen when you roll the like
there's none. There's none.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Oh, well, that's pretty awesome.
But you get what you're given, and you have to use it when you rage. That's the thing.
That's kind of fun though, in a way as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is good. And there's so many amazing classes, and obviously so many that are coming out.
Spit out the one that I was planning quite heavily recently, which is a level 5 monk with 3 levels in rogue, and you are a Kenzei monk and a psychic knife rogue, and it's basically
Jedi.
Yeah, and so every time you attack, you can also, with your free hand, spawn a psychic knife and hit with that, and that's all part as one attack. So you can do essentially 4 attacks. One of them gets sneak attack, and then as a bonus action, flurry of blows with monk, and then after you flurry of blows as a Kensei monk, you get +2 AC until your next turn.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. I don't even understand most of
It's
that.
basically
it's
a lot of dice every turn.
Yeah. So are you just building it for, and anyone that's listening will know the feeling of just the fun of building it, or are you thinking?
I just build them for fun, and I think, am I going to use this, or are they? Yeah. If I'm going to DM, are they going to fight this? And it's just going to be annoying for them.
Yeah.
I think that's how Johnny thinks with most of his boss battles, isn't it? So that's why I expect him to come up against some level 20. I just assume whatever the bad guy we're going to fight in the end is just going to be a wizard, isn't it? It's just going to be
and he's going to be called like Janny.
Yeah, Yanni
the wizard.
E Helmolemor or something like that, and then we'll and
we'll defeat him with the power of love or something like that, won't we?
Something like that. So we're just looking. So as I said, we're looking at moving on to the next arc. We're in Njurgumgrak, or whatever it's called. Christine's been learning how to pronounce it properly.
Njurgumgurt.
There you go.
Pin.
Yes.
No, still not right.
But no, so we're going in, and this is going to be a whole different flavor. So what do we think the cold north is going to bring us, except maybe some rock hard nipples?
I'd be interested to. I mean, obviously Johnny has got that level of preparedness that I think most people can be envious of. But in terms of the new culture, I think it's going to be a shock, because I think it might actually potentially change the dynamic of the group, because up until now, Octavius has been part. There's been two
sort of navigators.
It's been the cultural centre point.
But at the same time, he's been a fugitive. So he hasn't been able to be a very front and forward navigator with that. So,
and then ironically, he's now going to an area where that is at war with his own people. So he'll sort of be
Cold War, but yes.
Cold War, yeah, a Cold War, yeah. No, was that a joke?
Pun?
It wasn't a pun, but it was. It is now. It is now. I definitely thought of that as a pun.
So maybe give a bit of background from what we know as players. We are going to Nuremberg to find. We know that My Center and Hawthorne Steel have been colluding and been together. They were in the library together that we broke into. And we are trying to find them for a couple of reasons. Obviously, Faeza's reason, because she needs to find My Center again.
She's been searching for him for 10 years and 5 months now.
Exactly. Wow. And this is the first time we've had
2 days.
Any leads. And 2 days. And we know we want to speak to Hawthorne. I know Six wants to speak to him to understand more about Seed and about them. And, but I don't know what some of the other intentions. I know that between, Sean and Dan, Lack and Six, is this on the map? Is going to Nuremberg part of your mother's pilgrimage? Did she do this? Or have you thought about that yet?
It's a good question. I think that undoubtedly Six is very single-minded. So he's thinking at the moment along the lines of he has a knowledge gap with Seed and he needs to fill it. And he doesn't know if these two people are rogue elements and if they're going to endanger the lives of the companions he's traveling with. So he's going to ferret that information out. And that's his singular goal at the moment. I have a feeling that when it comes to whether this was on the pilgrimage, Lack will make it on the pilgrimage if it suits Lack's agenda.
That's exactly. In fact, he already has, hasn't he? He said we need to go there because it's on the pilgrimage. So,
and Six trusts him. And even if he doesn't, even if he finds out he's been lying, he's probably not going to be that mad either. I think it's one of those things where it doesn't matter if he's being lied to.
It's the journey, isn't it?
Go.
And they do. The brothers lie to each other all the time. And
I never lied to Sean.
But I
very
like
good
the
lie
fact
there,
that
Ryan.
The very good lie. I like the fact that they do, and that they let each other off for that, and they call each other up on stuff, but not the stuff you think it would be. It's, they don't sweat the small or the big stuff. It's the random stuff that gets under the skin.
Well, that's what it's like with family, isn't it? You just fight over silly things, and then you sort of then there's the time to figure out what you think about the important things. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there an episode coming up where Lack and Sixsmith play board games and it all just hell breaks loose?
Yes.
And then they don't speak to each other for the rest
Flips
of
the
the rest of the
table.
year. Yeah.
It's just Dan and Sean thinly veiled, like dealing with the issues of their own brothers to each other. So that's what it's going to end up being, isn't it? Yeah.
I think bizarrely, being in Nurmungard, you're going to find out more about Zwati.
That's
I hope so,
interesting.
because that has been a closely guarded secret, hasn't it?
Yeah. So I think, but because weirdly, having to, it's kind of continuing Faeza's arc to go up there to find my center, but we've still got this overarching kind of story of the plague and what's going on with the gods, because we all come from different countries which are quite well spread out, but we've all had a solid knowledge of, no, these are the 7 gods, this is what we do, and yet, like, there's something that was so fundamental that it crosses countries' borders that's been shaken by these revelations, these extra gods.
I think, and this is not just Nurmungard, we'll come back to that, but I think Johnny's doing a bait and switch, and the 7 gods are actually the evil ones, and then they defeated the other one. It's like, these aren't the gods of Olympus, these are actually Titans.
Yeah, as soon as you mention it, you'll have to go and hastily rewrite the ending.
I've been thinking like it was like an apotheosis story where they've replaced the old gods.
Oh,
it's a very good name. Good word there. Good use of the word.
Yes, it was. I thought that as well. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, because it could almost be like how the Roman gods sort of took the Greek gods and made them a bit of a joke. They sort of made them almost like sort of
caricatures.
And sort of
then slowly replaced them with exactly the same things but with a different name.
It's hilarious, isn't it? It feels very sort of modern in a way, like to take something, co-opt it, and then just sort of alter it to your own
The Romans were so good at it. So good at it.
They were,
marketing. Good at just better
It
marketing.
was marketing, wasn't it? Yeah.
Because what Johnny's hook to try and get everybody familiar with each of the countries is to have that kind of parallel, but twisted parallel. So like with Chinello, it's the Rome, it's that kind of Italian kind of feel to that kind of ancient Rome feeling, and Nurmungard, is leaning towards the Viking kind of. Maybe even a little mix of ancient England, where it's all very broken up.
If there's one thing that's good about Vikings, it's about small men defeating very big monsters.
Perfect. Thank God, Octavius is a small character then.
Yeah. But
I think Johnny's rubbing his hands with glee, and we all are, with their sort of like recent sort of release of the trailer and information about the new God of War. God of War Ragnarok. That's going to time nicely. They time that nicely to fit in the season with this part of the season.
Yeah. I mean, they asked us, didn't they? Corey called us and was like, "Do you mind if we drop the trailer? We're waiting for you guys to get to Nurmungard." And so we had to.
Okay. I was not privy to that conversation.
Oh, listen, I think you were.
Sorry, Brad.
What's going on there?
I think you were. No, we just didn't ask you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Taj is working against us in the chat now. He's asking Johnny to create new monsters to fight us. So
we know that Johnny does that. Johnny creates monsters that look the same as other monsters, but don't act like those monsters. That's what Johnny does.
Yeah. I remember the giant toad. That was a pain in the ass. That toad.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel in a way I've got an advantage over you guys, because you guys a lot of you are familiar with these monsters, so
it's true.
That is a disadvantage in this.
Johnny consumes a lot of the same content as the rest of us, so we know what he's thinking a lot of the times, but he uses that against us.
None of you have played with my Uncle Arthur. That's all I'm saying. Doesn't matter what Johnny throws at us. There is no way he can be as vicious or as horrible. Who is now? I love my Uncle Arthur, but his
exactly.
No, honestly, even if he tries, there is no way.
No, why would you do that? You're making it worse.
Try what he wants.
I'll be like, though. That's carte blanche. He'll go mad.
Arthur did this 20 years ago. I don't know what's.
I'm so scared now. I'm so scared. But I love that this idea of this sort of the villains and that we will be fighting, the monsters we'll be fighting, will have such a different flavor. I'm really excited.
Yeah, because I think Chinella, as we've sort of introduced, Chinella was built upon laws. It was built upon roads, like paved roads. It had a lot of bureaucracy,
politics,
military,
all that it wielded.
And there was the idea of structure, wasn't there, within that country? So it was all divided up very logically, and
And so it'd be interesting to see how it affects, from the little that we know of Indiri so far. We know it's sort of a bit more mythical based and a sort of fantastical based, in the stories that are told, and the sort of the sparkle, the sort of the sparkle in the light that makes us think of all these wonderful parables. But this seems to be a bit more darker. It seems to be a bit more of that. It's not really grimdark. What's the type of, sort of like a fables sort of style, creepiness, and that sort of the,
like maybe if like not quite fairy tale either, but like
but like the Elseworld
from any of those
mythological
things, can't you? Yeah, and sort of like a little bit.
Yeah, but it's more
like
European, Christine said.
like,
It's more into that Viking mythology of like the gods are just like us, and they are not really, really flawed and do really stupid shit.
They would sit around our hall drinking our mead or whatever,
and then chop us all to pieces because they felt like
Thor once got bet he could drink so much, and he tried, and he almost drained an entire ocean dry.
They're nuts, all of those gods. They're proper bastards, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see the take of this world on the gods actually as well, because it's interesting to see exactly what you were saying earlier on, Christine, about what the different countries.
I find it really interesting because I've having done this show, this Just So, based on Rudyard Kipling stories, where he tries to explain the way animals were created through these silly stories. So like the kangaroo wanted to be the most sought after animal in the world. So the eldest magician, who's basically the god, got the dingo to chase him over miles and miles and miles and miles for an entire day, which caused his legs to grow. He was sought after by the dingo, and it caused his legs to grow, and he didn't need his front ones because he was running on his hind legs. And like really like why the tide was created, because there was a massive crab that used to come out to get its food and then go back into the water once it had got its food, right? But then you think about Greek Norse mythology, and it's about as ridiculous as that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Zeus comes down as a horse, and impregnates someone.
Horse.
And we're just like, there we go. This time you've locked her in a tower, so I'm going to turn into Golden Rain, and impregnate her that way. And you're like, this is...
Yeah. Ragnarok was caused because Loki had a child that was a wolf.
Yep.
I love it. I'm hoping, knowing Johnny and knowing that he loves every bit of yes, but we don't talk about it. There's a lot of fox women in this show. I'm just saying,
a
lot of furries in this show, Johnny. So we're sort of seeing a pattern. Forgot my point. Doesn't matter. I like with the point we ended on instead. I like the focus of that. Knowing Johnny has lots of various fantasy influences, and that he reads over a lot of fantasy. He's not like, oh, I'm this just grimdark, or I'm just high fantasy or something. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he builds that stuff into the into this part of the world.
He just wanted to cater. He just wanted to cater to you, Sean. Apparently, I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah. Is that what he said?
And then before that, he just said, "I am a cat, and all things are like me." So I think it just backs up sort of what we were saying.
He didn't help himself out there, did he?
No,
it'd be interesting, and how are some of our backstories and classes? Because I think this is quite far away from not necessarily what we're originally feeling, or what some of the original arcs we discussed, but how it's all going to tie back into it. Obviously, this is Johnny's job to figure out, right, how everything that we do is going to tie into the larger mythos of the world, and how these actions, although insignificant, will change everything. And it's going to be interesting to sort of see, how that's going to come to be. How are we going to get into the Roadside Tavern?
Yeah, well, we're also talking about the fact that we wanted to base this story to encourage our heritage and to celebrate our heritage. And the fact that we're going away from that seems almost counterintuitive to that. Like we started in a Roman-based place and we're going to a Viking-based place. It couldn't be further from the idea of sort of brown people. But it's about watching fish out of water, isn't it? It's about watching... In fact, at this point in Ermengarde, we'll all be that. So Octavius has had the benefit of being in his home country, but everyone else has been a fish out of water, and now we're all going to be there, which is going to be really interesting. And then interesting to see maybe if the arc takes us around to coming home, and how that might affect, because then it will be a majority of the crew that will be home.
Yeah,
who knows what
right.
happens? The last time we faced the
sorry.
sin, the thingy of sin,
Host of
what's it
sins.
called? Host of
Host of
sins.
sins.
We got teleported somewhere random, so
I was
we
going to
don't know
say
what's
though,
going to happen.
because there's been a lot that's changed in the world since you left. So, for example, the plague, and also this whole the knowledge of the gods, and so on. So it would be interesting for you to go back to somewhere which should be familiar that maybe is slightly twisted.
That's
Do you know
right.
what I mean?
And we will be different as well, because
Yeah,
we won't be the boys from Indiri anymore. We'll have travelled the world, which I find it's interesting.
Yeah, we were really sort of, when we chatted about it fairly, a little while ago, we were like, we're actually glad that it's taking us a bit of time to get where we were all expecting to go to very quickly, and we're all sort of in agreement that actually is sort of more's the sweeter when we get there. And also it means that Intiri is very different to a place like Zawati. Zawati is a place that we sort of know nothing about. So when we get there, we don't know whether it's going to be the same as it was before, whether it's different. Whereas we talk about Intiri a fair amount. So the contrast will be there. Whereas Zawati is going to be, it's almost shrouded in a different kind of mystery. It's nice that all the places feel different.
But the thing with Zawati is, and I don't think I'm ruining anything for anybody here, is it's got that, because of the secrecy side of it, it's kind of got that Forbidden City kind of vibe anyway, so there is that kind of element of, it's very close knit. I think Faeza's already mentioned that the merchants, who obviously are a necessary evil to come into Zawati, they've got their own sort of town that they come to. She messaged, I think she just mentioned it in passing. There is a place the merchants come to, and they're not allowed anywhere else. So and Faeza hasn't revealed a lot about how much she knows about Zawati yet. So I think there'll be.
I feel like all these teasers are going to come to a culmination soon, aren't they?
Yeah, they really will be, and it will be odd because I think you'll find out a lot about Zawati from Nuremberg.
We're going to get some Nuremberg mead. She's going to drink some Nurembergian mead and be like, "My hometown."
Well, she hasn't got drunk yet. I think she hasn't got drunk.
Time to get drunk.
I don't think anybody's
got past
drunk
those
yet, have they?
contracts.
Oh, I think no.
Didn't we get drunk at that nightclub one time?
No, Dan, in the
nightclub. Yeah, in the game. In the game.
Before the heist, didn't we all go out to a nightclub or something?
No,
or am I
just
just thinking about that in my head?
No,
Six has got drunk a couple of times. Yeah, he goes out and gets drunk.
Faeza
like a good soldier.
Didn't end up drinking her drink. She didn't drink it.
Do we think, obviously, aside from Sean, but do we think we should do a drunk stream episode?
We do it on a Monday night.
Maybe
it'll be like herding cats for Johnny.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I've just discussed that. We could do like a Friday, Saturday pre-record and do a drunk episode. That'd be fun.
But how do you do it? Because would you have to start
for a one
drunk,
shot?
Though?
Well, we could do like they do Shitface Shakespeare, where one person's really drunk and everyone else isn't.
It's just
one where I run it, I host it, I'm sober, and everyone else is drunk, right? But the rule is you sort of basically have to turn up smashed, otherwise there's no point. Like if you're all sober for like 3 hours, and then
just sat there waiting for the stream to start drinking shots.
Yes,
Listen, it's called a one shot for a reason. All right.
It's not just
do we need to make like a bingo card for the game? Then?
Every time you roll a dice, you have to take a shot, and if you crit fail, it's 2.
I want to live past the end of the game.
Oh yeah, or a sip, or fair enough, whatever, a sip or a couple of fingers or whatever. But then you have to, and then if you crit fail, you have to then like either finish your drink or something like that, or whatever. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm sure there's drunk
the thing we do when
rules.
we get together, when we're allowed to be in person and we get some time.
I'm not sure I want to be around you when you're vomiting because you've had too much to drink. Do you know what I mean?
Not me. I'll be sober. Yeah. I'll be the sober.
I'll tap out before the vom times, but Brad might not.
I will basically be taking halves of what I would usually take, I think, to survive.
Brad will vomit on the train on the way home.
You can't. I mean,
no. It's the one time.
Out ways of being, tentative with this, and that's not the point of it.
Yes, Christine.
It is if you want to keep carpets clean.
Now
Sorry,
you
we're
can see where Faeza and Christine separate. There's the line. Yeah.
And it's after one mug of wine, apparently.
Not even one mug yet. I haven't even finished yet,
No.
so. Oh well. Hey.
So I'm just seeing if we've got any other questions. No, last thing was about Johnny talking about foxes, which we all love. So I think maybe it'd be interesting to sort of look at what we are thinking about in the future. I know we, as I said, Brad, we need to discuss a bit more, but as Christmas sort of starts to come in, which I know sounds ridiculous, but it's in September, and obviously schedules and the country's back opening up. We have got a couple of people in and out, and we didn't know if it was the best thing to do to sort of keep the going where we can replace one person or two people or something like that. So we're thinking
there may
of
just be this perfect window, isn't it, where we may be able to just do a mini sort of series.
There's about 4 weeks off where it's sort of towards the tail end of November into December where a couple of people are out, and so we're thinking of doing another micro campaign. It wouldn't necessarily be inside of Erionwel. It might be something outside of that, just to wet our whistle, to keep us going, to keep the stream going, to keep all of you lovely people entertained at home. So, it'd be interesting to let us know if there's any cool one-shot ideas inside of D&D, whether you want to hear us try those cool characters.
I mean, there's a potential for some extra guests as well, I think, as well.
Yeah.
We discussed that briefly. So
could potentially grab some guests as well to sort of do things. I know a couple of our closest competitors, did Zan Panthea, whatever it was called.
Unlimited.
Yeah, that's the one. Down the Panthea Unlimited or whatever.
And Panthea Unlimited.
Yeah.
Damn straight, my friends. Damn straight.
And then, I know that NADPod also did like a secret order of monks episode where they all played like level 15 monks for 3 episodes while someone was paternity leave. So let us know on Blood Song Party on Twitter or Blood and Song on Facebook or Instagram what cool campaigns we could do, what cool ideas you could think of.
I think we should all play wizards, and Johnny plays.
Well, I've got
Johnny's
an
the
idea.
DM, and we all
only play fighters.
I have had an idea, right, of a one shot where it's basically
have to be a 4-shot.
A 3-4
well, in the
shot,
future,
if you like, we can extend it. I haven't really decided on the story, but the twist is, because we're all now a little bit more experienced, class roulette.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you don't know what you're playing until the start of the session.
Okay.
Pre-made characters.
Or the session zero. Session zero.
No,
you have a
you
pre-made character.
Pre-made.
You just get pre-made.
I love a pre-made character.
And so does Johnny, to be fair, as well.
Okay.
So yeah, that could work.
That would be
I
quite
hate
cool.
it though. My most fun I have is creating the character.
That's why you love Echo Night, though, Sean.
That's true. You created a
character.
kick-ass Echo Night. And
I was thinking Prison Break or Hangover style.
Both.
One shot.
Love it.
Both.
Or both.
Drunk, hangover, wake up in a prison.
Everyone's got amnesia, yeah?
Yeah.
Figure out what happened.
What can I do? I don't know. I'm so drunk. I can't even remember what I did.
Yeah,
You're so hungover that you can't remember what your classes and stuff. Oh, that's actually.
And you level up. You could level up every 20 minutes or half an hour.
Yeah, just every 10
something
minutes.
absurd.
Like,
remember what I can do now.
So good, yeah, of course. Oh, I'm up for this. Yeah, no one put anything in the comments. Fuck you. We know what we're doing.
We do have a nice question though from Johnny.
Yes, we've got a really nice question from Johnny. Go for it, right?
So, a question from Johnny. What single instant has changed your character's worldview the most and why? And I think for a couple of people, I think it might have been Seed's departure. I know that's sort of been quite a heavy thing.
That was pretty heavy.
For Six, it probably was, because he sort of. I think we've talked about this before, but he saw that moment as consequence to some secrets. In his opinion, I don't necessarily even think this is the right way to think, but he thinks that if Seed had been less secretive, perhaps she may still be alive. They may still be alive. So that's his sort of bugbear. You can see it playing on him with all of his interactions with people. Is it like, yeah? But that's it for Six, I think.
Octavius is the same event, but for completely different reasons. Until that point, he was with the party because everybody had aligned goals, and he didn't really know what he was wanted to do yet. And then after that point, he now sees it as his absolute duty to continue through the storylines of trying to find who Seed's mental or whoever he was, and
Okay.
curing the plague at the same time, because that's what they died for. So it's a very
Actually,
it's
yeah.
in line with his character. It's a very dutiful thing that is come onto him.
That was good when Six and Octavius had that moment in the cave as well, where because I think before that we weren't quite sure. I wasn't quite sure what's Octavius's motivation, but then when he was like, "I'll do anything to stop the plague," you were like, "Okay, I get it. I get where that's coming from. That attitude." So yeah,
I can't. There's not a single incident, but I think it's I can think of three probably that's changed. So I think one is when Seed passed, because just before her and Seed had that conversation about being best friends.
I'll never die.
Of them have had it's like, oh, it's terrible, isn't it?
Here's my,
I know.
here's my kid, and I can't wait to go home and see them.
Do you watch
2 days to retire.
Armstrong and Miller?
Yeah.
Did you watch that? Yeah, and they had the scenes where it was all World War II movies. And the idea is, at home, I'm a classical pianist, and then arms blown off. These sort of things that happen to the poor guys. But yeah, so that I think was quite, when Seed went, that was quite a darkening moment for Faeza. But
yeah, that was
two
quite
other
moving,
one I
thought.
think is probably a bit like Bradley was saying about the mission. I think when they suddenly sort of came together and said, actually, we've got a purpose, because up until now she'd been walking around for 10 years kind of trying to find my center, and that has been her purpose, trying to be useful, but basically trying to find my center, and that's been her overarching. But so to have another stronger reason, if those two purposes ever come to odds, I genuinely don't know what decision she'd make if she had to decide between those two. And the other one, I guess, would be at the very start with the Festival of Falling Leaves, because it kicked it all off. Like suddenly there was a party of people, and again, for some reason, up until that point, she'd been on her own. So I think that was very much a start of things, and seeing those creatures for the first time. I genuinely think up until that point she'd never seen anything supernatural. When those things came out of the leaves, I think that was a whole world of what is this. So yeah,
But like if any of us saw a mythical creature, I'd be like, well, my whole life's a lie now. So
absolutely. I think up
there's
until
an actual
that point, there'd been rules to her life.
there's an actual goblin.
Yeah.
This is going to sound odd, and maybe you guys will refute this, but I feel like nothing has happened yet that was changed Ripper's worldview yet, because he's still just in it for the crack. This is like just a long ass story. He's having some fun. It's the Irish crack, Brad.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, my light's just turned off. But and he's sort of been in it for that sort of aspect of it, and so I think there's been nothing that has completely sort of made him negate against that. I think he still loves people. He still loves a bit of fun. He's still sort of just going around and having a good one with whoever it is. And yeah, there's not been anything that shattering for him yet. Unless you guys think it's wrong.
That means it's still to come, though. No, I mean you'd know, really, wouldn't you? But I happen to think that, like, I think for an audience, it was really good to see him talk to the priest, and even though the priest was like, very of the area, in this sort of rundown church, and sort of it's still Ripper almost forced him to see things a different way, and so for Ripper to sort of come out of that more humble and like I don't know, I saw a change where he started to want to help other people more, and that's just intensified. I mean, even on the ship, like we would help directly by Ripper to improve ourselves. Like that's a huge feat. So I think whatever happens that changes Ripper significantly, maybe it's to do with that. Maybe it's at that nexus, or maybe it's at something.
I feel like
that.
he's just one of those people that's just like, no, I just help people, and people are like, yeah, but maybe you don't understand what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
You've helped Sixsmith be a better liar. I mean,
so listen, I'll tell you
good.
this is the right forum for this, right? I think that Sixsmith is pushing. He's writing in his note in his diary. He's writing his thoughts as lyrics. Now I'm not doing this, so this isn't prepared.
No. If you say
Not
it,
yet.
you're
Yeah.
going to have to do it. I know.
No,
what
so
you're
at
gonna
some
say.
point,
And this
I
isn't
am.
the first
So
time
at
you've
some
mentioned it
point,
either,
so I don't even want to do this as Sean. I just think it's part of Six's journey, right? Especially considering that we've hinted at the idea of language being like the unlocking of certain things, particularly in the brothers, right? So I'm trying to angle him towards going from a terrible poet to maybe a sort of half decent poet of sorts, like a sort of people who will, sort of log what's going on, but make it like the Iliad or something, like that sort of thing, like that sort of poem.
I mean, if
not
he
anything
comes
big
out
or
with an
anything.
Iliad level poem, then
I mean,
because the entire Iliad is a poem, right?
Yeah, exactly. So he might think he's come up with something of that quality. But the beautiful thing is, if he's going to be shit for a while, like maybe he'll be good eventually. Maybe he won't be, but like he's trying to take on the mantle of like if we are ever called upon to be a band, he's got some thoughts he can't really express to people because he's a bit awkward. So maybe he can express it via lyrics or something.
Is that a moment that changed your worldview though? Like to bring it back to the Christian, or is
maybe
that
maybe it was Six's sort of Seed's first song, like was what did it for Six, and he thought, wow, you can actually. The thing is, there's lots of expression in theory and lots of sort of art as as expression, but maybe he'd never seen something so sort of it's just sort of otherworldly, I suppose, and sort of and funny and honest and like. So I think for him it was, maybe it wasn't that specifically, but I think he's trying to carry on Seed spirit. I think that's his way of doing it, I suppose. There's no way that he's going to sing, right? Because I can't sing, right? Sean can't sing. There's no way I'm going to sing. There's no way I can do what Becki did. That was wonderful.
Sean can actually sing, kind of good.
Yeah, but I can sing the way that, like, when your parents say, I haven't got any money, what they mean is I don't have any money for you to buy a stupid thing. When you're young, they have money, right? Otherwise, they're not sort of, on the poverty line. But
So,
they're not
you're saying you have no songs for us?
I have songs for the shower and the
karaoke booth.
Look, part of me thinks that maybe, but it's not Six to do like a sort of, what does he do in like Lord of the Rings, like an Aragorn song? He sings his song at the end to the, right at the end of the Return of the King.
To the Eagles.
Yeah. So that's not his style, but I'm wondering if some of the Anglo-British side of him might mean he might be able to do some sort of grime rap.
What? Who?
Some sort of like he'll express himself because it's his sort of the way he gets deep poetry out.
To be fair,
himself a poet.
To be fair, in Banyet they freestyle, so
Yeah, so maybe he wants to feel the Banyet flavor, right? And like,
in Banyet they freestyle. So,
I'm there for you, mate. I'm going to write a grime track just for you.
Let's do it. Like, I feel like that's part of his growth, but trust me, I don't think it's going to happen for a long time. So we'll be doing another one of these roadside taverns.
Basically, everyone has to keep listening because it's going to come.
It's going to come at some point.
Yeah. Think before you speak, guys. Think before you speak.
Yes.
I think
that's not the rip away. It's not the rip away.
I think for Lack, he's there's obviously everyone's got two sides, but the one defining moment which kind of got swept under the carpet in the stream, but certainly not for me as Lack, is his ruthlessly murdering the bandit that was following him in Cinderbank.
Just two cops.
Just two cops. It was Just Two Cops. Not only did it start the beginning of Just Two Cops, which we totally need to bring back in stream. By the way, that is died and it needs to come back.
It's a good side miniseries.
Sidebar.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, you see, that's the ship we've missed out on, isn't it? Ripper
like
Lack,
in,
Just Two Cops.
Thor 2.
That's true.
It'd be like when they're walking out the elevator, and it'd be like a preset routine now that they've already done before. Just Two Cops.
Could it be? I don't want to interject for too long, but can it be that like Six is the commissioner and he wants Lack and Ripper to find Avantika for him or something? Like that's the Just Two Cops. They got to go like to bars and clubs and underground places and root out. If you're listening, Johnny. That's
the side. That's the side hustle.
That's the Just Two Cops.
I mean, the Just Two Cops thing was brilliant, and it gave him and Ripper a really great moment. But he wasn't an innocent because he was trying to mug him, but he overkilled that person. Like there was no need for the way he did it, and it's again with stuff that we will eventually, I hope, learn about Lack if he doesn't die before then. We'll learn that that's not really it's something he can do, but not something he wants to do. And so that was I think that really shined a light on Lack for him about what he's capable of. And that was brought about and has been continuously compounded on. And I joke about the fact that Lack constantly says that all Chinellans are racist and that he doesn't like anyone in Chinella. But that's almost strictly true, is that while he's been in Chinella, there hasn't been... The Garden are the only people that are exception to that. They only have been nice to him. In fact, Nimble's the only person that's been nice to him. Thorn has used him for her own gain. And Nimble's the only person he's had any camaraderie that isn't one of the... Which is why he's sticking with the group, really, more than anything, is because they're the only people that vaguely treat him nicely. But every person we've met in Chinella, again, not necessarily every is a big word, sorry, but the majority of, at least to Lack's...
The named characters.
Yeah, have been horrible. Yeah. None of them have treated us well. They've only been there to... And I know that's, from a story point of view, that's what you need. You need antagonists, right? But Lack's not met a nice person.
Place and everything, and
Lack's not met a nice person, so he doesn't. His worldview has been slowly deteriorating. In that, outside of his walled, we call monastery, but Katipai or whatever it is in Indian, and maybe he hasn't enjoyed that, and was hoping that the big wide world and the journey would show him that the world is better and nicer than that. And not only has he come across every person showing that he didn't, that he also was pushed to ruthlessly murdering a young man because he was so disappointed with the world. And I don't think we've really seen, and that's why he's the lost puppy doing his thing. I mean, Johnny's put up Ignis, but Ignis was a prick. Like he might have been a nice, but he might be our prick. But he was like, everyone hated him. Everyone hated him. Yeah, right? We liked him,
and he turned out to be. He blossomed into a character that was quite charming and helpful in the end. Yeah, but Lackand is not like the type of person to like someone like Ignis, is he?
No, he's not nice.
He threatens to burn people's eyes out all the time. That's not something that nice people do. And I think that's really a journey that I wonder whether we'll see Lack go through. And he's disillusioned, and the only people that he's got that are nice to him are 3 of this group. And that's not a diss to Octavius, but just Octavius he's not nice to anyone. He's not a warm character. Exactly. And Lack started off, I mean, we started off with, holding hands with Faeza in episode 1, and he was like a young puppy ready to do stuff. And slowly but surely he's not. He's becoming more of a... I personally don't like playing lone wolf, so... But he definitely is he's leading his own path and not really caring about other people anymore, which is so far from the Lack that started, and actually the Lack that I was hoping I'd create. And he comes back every now and again, but more and more as the Shard has become his sort of focus, because it's the only thing that talks to him. It's the only thing that listens to him, and the only thing that gives him some form of guidance. So that was a big turning point, sort of the murdering of that. I say murdering, but we kill a lot of things in this, but he kind of killed another human being without their opportunity to defend themselves because he was ridiculously sneaky and stabbing through the back.
I think it's quite an important development of the character, though, in terms of the group, because there is this kind of side to Lack that no one else knows about, even his brother.
Yeah.
Because of his connection with the Shard, and although there's a lot of trust going on between the rest of the company as to what is happening between or ignorance between what's happening with Lack and the Shard, that is colouring things without a lot of characters now. And it's very hard actually to have the characters react as if this is, because there's that whole meta thing above the table, kind of we kind of see
we
this
all know
here and there.
that something's talking to Lack, and we now know it's off Loki through the Shard, but as characters everyone thinks No, yeah, as characters, everybody thinks, oh, he can do some cool stuff with this shard now.
Yeah,
It's just
just another magical item, isn't it?
artifact.
Yeah, and we're such a fantastical bunch in terms of what everybody can do, that there is an element of trust between us all that we've developed on terms of, because of the combat that we've been through together and the
what combat?
the interactions. Shut your face. But you know, when you like, come on, like the Tokyo Drift thing and all of that, like you kind of like go, wow, this person's got amazing skills. They've really got my back.
Yeah.
That to think about what's going on with Lack and the shard is sort of like, gosh, that feels like a massive kind of dagger coming into.
Yeah,
you know,
and it's really interesting because we just recorded a Slash Dupe episode, and one of the pitches was about a person that gradually gets more and more corrupted by something, and that at each step of the way, as an audience member, you totally understand why they've done it until they get to the point where they've committed atrocities, and you still understand why they did it.
Yeah,
and like it's. I'm not saying that that's where my path is for Lack, but it's really interesting that he has gone from this sort of trusting, open person to a person that's not even deliberately keeping something away, just doing it almost out of mischief and doing it because he doesn't think anyone cares. Like his brother is having his own grump ever since Seed's death and his own issues, and he would be the first person he'd confide in. And also the last person because he doesn't want to let him down.
Is it sort of that thing of like, I don't want to burden anyone with my things?
Yeah,
as well.
Get told off. I mean, sorry.
I don't want to burden anyone with my.
That's exactly it. Like you got Octavius who that he won't talk to, or can't. His brother who's worried
Octavius
will get
wouldn't know what to do.
What to do with it. His brother he's worried he would tell him off or tell him he knows better, and and on a good day he wouldn't. But Sixsmith hasn't been having a good day for a long time. Ripper, who's like just says nice things all the time, so he doesn't really want to get involved in that and we had that big chat about the gods as well, didn't we, during Cinderbane, about how because Lack was massively disillusioned, and he wouldn't want to burden Faeza with that, despite Faeza probably being the one person he should talk to about it because she would think of it about it logically rather than judge him. She would probably be on his side, but Faeza's like already struggling with her arc and her worry about my center, that it feels an unnecessary burden for someone that he feels is as childlike as he is, and so he's got no one to talk to about it really, and I think that's, I mean, we're talking about it now outside of it, and we obviously when we're in character we don't have any of that, but it's really interesting that's because that hasn't been an intention of mine either. Or Johnny's, I don't think. I think or anyone in the groups. And it's interesting that could have turned out an entirely different way if, at the very beginning, instead of that happening when he hadn't murdered someone or Seed dying, that actually we'd all be knowing what the shard was and we'd all be working on it together. Or do you know what I mean?
It's a host of things. Like somebody else could have kept the shard, and
exactly.
You're right. He's gone. This is my thing. This is my connection now. Yeah, he's almost introverted himself into the shard.
Yeah. Well, there is a reason that the corruption trope is so well established.
Yeah.
So many stories use it to such great effect.
Taj is asking.
Ours the best in many ways, I would say. Than anything else.
Well, we've got to see where it leads. None of us know where it's going to lead. So
Taj is asking, can we assume that Lack is on a few steps from total insanity?
Jeez, and is it Lack's toxic masculinity coming out? And I find that interesting because I genuinely don't think that is what it was. I think it was his temper. It was a temper tantrum. Being the owner of a 5-year-old at the moment, it definitely felt like a temper tantrum. He was lashing out, and unfortunately, because he's got these skills and abilities, his lashing out meant that came at the cost, and that's what he learned. I think that's the worldview, is that he can't do those kind of things, and that's what his discipline was for.
Also, there's sometimes a delayed reaction, and I don't know if this will also, because when Sixsmith was in a cave, I was thinking, do you know what? I think maybe he has a bit of, he sort of fights on open plains and stuff. Fighting in a cave for him, I think, gave him a bit of not
Claustrophobia.
Yeah, claustrophobia. Yeah. So I think it was a bit terser when he was fighting in the cave. I think it was unnatural for him to be in that environment. So there's even other things that like will some of these things be related to Lack's grieving, the idea of turning up too late for to bury his mum. Will some of these things, these actions, come out of that? And yeah, I love that fluidity of D&D. That's why we love it as its own entity, separate to all the other things we do.
Yeah, and of course now he's found out that it was off Loki talking to him, at least off Loki talking to him through the shard, because for a long time he thought it might be his mother or his other
really
parent.
Interesting. Yeah. And
so there's a disappointment now in that, although he has heard his mother, I believe, or a woman's voice, a different voice. So it's a communing thing for him again. I mean, we know that the shard's playing a relatively important part at this point, but yeah, it's very interesting that and I genuinely haven't thought of this as we've been going along. That has been reactive, and we've discussed the shard, haven't we, as a group? We've discussed the spear because it became that, and he actually hasn't been using that as much as maybe he might end up using it now. But yeah, it's really interesting. I know that's true for almost everyone, but Lack has had quite a big turn actually from the puppy that he was in, probably for the first 5 episodes actually. And now he's not really. He's an untrained puppy.
He's become the closed off introverted teenager. He's grown up.
Yeah, we're watching him grow. Yeah,
I mean, there is very real parallels with. I would say as well, just with real life in terms of that, not talking to people about your feelings and stuff like that. That's really relatable, because and it is understandable, and it's that story about understanding, like all the steps that take you to. Isn't it like the path to hell is littered with good intentions, all that sort of stuff. Not that I'm saying Lack's going to hell.
Well, we just don't know. That's the thing.
No, not at all. But especially over the last year and a half, where a lot of people have struggled, but they haven't really talked to people. I mean, I know I didn't. There's lots of people I didn't talk to over the kind of year and a half where you're forced not to interact as much.
Or want to get in contact with them for fear that they're going through the same thing, or for fear that they would tell you it's not worth it, or exactly.
100%. That whole thing about being in the same storm but in different boats. You just the amount of friends I've spoken to that they've filled you in on what's happened over the last year, and you go, "Oh, that's a big deal," And it's like, why didn't you? I obviously didn't reach out to them in the right way.
Well, that's the thing, and that's it, because you can't accuse them, can you? You can't.
No,
why didn't you talk to me about this? Because that's exactly the wrong, and then you'll get even less.
100%.
And that, of course, might be that's sort of Lack's worry about Six, is that he would tell him and he go, "Why didn't you tell me about this earlier?" And that would come from a place of love, of course it would, but it would be completely the wrong. And in fact, it's probably happened a couple of times, hasn't it, already?
Yeah.
But it's the age-old thing of not wanting advice, like you just want to be listened to. And I think Six is very good at giving advice. I'm not necessarily sure at the moment he's very good at listening.
Yeah.
So maybe that will change, maybe it won't. Maybe, as what happens with family, maybe Lack will find somebody else to confide in instead.
Yeah.
And then and that will change Lack and Six's relationship for the better as well, which can happen. So
I know that Faeza has a sort of like reaction to people being bullied or anyone being
that's what her and Six fell out on in the first place, wasn't
100%. And it's also why she can be reckless, because she reacts to it. It's like when she's got into trouble over it. Like there was when we were all locked up and Lack was outside trying to get us out of that jail we were in, and she made the guard. She tried to make the guard poo himself, basically, which was completely out of character. Out of character. And then she realised that he was a bully, and she's like, "No, I'm going to stand up for the little person." And there is stuff about her past which you'll find out, which kind of enforces that. But it's like a sudden little angry switch that goes, and she doesn't always understand that that's why the reaction's happening. But and when the fawn was running across and being chased by the guards, and she set off the grease trap, and it was really nearly got us into trouble almost as soon as we got into Cinderbane.
Yeah, that was quite shocking, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you guys were like, "What?" And I'm like, "There's a reason, but I'm not going to tell you." Yeah, I think there's something in that, which is very interesting, and probably gonna. It's that flaw. It's that character flaw, isn't it? Not wanting to talk to people about the issues, or not feeling you can, and then it's kind of bounced around all of everyone. That's why Octavius hasn't opened up to anybody.
Yeah,
Octavius is a very toxic. Well, going back to what Taj said, a very toxic masculinity sort of side of him. Of just not talking about any feelings.
No, it's always facts with Octavius. Okay, I'll tell you the story. This is what happened with my brother.
This is what happened to my past. This is why.
That's why the Ripper Octavius ship is great.
That's why Ripper's got to just sort of tease the stitching on the side of Octavius, doesn't he? Just sort of open him up a bit more. And I love that. I love seeing that dynamic, and it brings a lot of humor into the game. And it's sort of you can see them bonding in a very unusual way. I wouldn't quite say they're very close at the moment, but you can definitely see them warming to each other.
He's definitely the closest in the group.
Oh, you mean to Octavius? It's Ripper.
Because if any emotion,
because he's tried.
If there's any emotion that Octavius does have, it's annoyance or angry towards Ripper, and it's like the only emotion he displays so far.
Yeah, which is his way of loving, in a way, so far.
But it might have started off as something that was genuinely just fucking stop, and now it's like that kind of, it is that kind of.
It'd be like if it wasn't there, he'd miss
affectionate.
it. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if Brad would say it went that far.
It's not quite. It's definitely not as annoyed. It's definitely not as annoyed as he used to be, for the same things.
Yeah.
Do you think now that Octavius is away from having to be as guarded in Chinella, that some of this these walls might relax a bit?
Depends what happens in Nuremberg, I suppose. So far, no, because we've just entered a town with a bunch of ghosts. So
yeah, that is true. What are his loves, his passions, though, Octavius? Will we find it in Nuremberg? Is that the place, or maybe in Diri? Where's the place where we can see him blossom in that way?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I've got to figure it out myself a little bit.
Yeah, but then like with everything with D&D, you'll know it when you see it. Right?
And it's some of the idea maybe of like finding yourself when you go to like another country or go to university or something like that. It's like now
he's on his gap. But
like if Octavius is, he's not in Chinella, he's not in Nuremberg, where he's been all his life. He's somewhere else where the women are exotic and the food is spicy and people do grime raps. I think everyone's character arcs. We're a year into this, but we have only scratched the surface of like everybody and what we do and how we do it, and we're only level 7 as well. So we've still got
hint, nudge, nudge, hint, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
I need that feat. I need to go up 1 level, please.
Every time you say that, we get de-leveled. This is why we're still level 7.
I'm listening. As we step into Nuremberg, that's one of our milestones, right? Surely.
I'm listening to it's a different game set. It's a cyberpunk playthrough, but every time the DM is muted, he gives the party an improvement point.
Love it,
because that's his point. So that's something to think about, Johnny. If you talk with you.
He's already letting us get our skills better.
Yeah, that's true.
We had cake finds when we started off, and that's kind of stopped.
Who's been keeping a log of the cake finds? That's what.
Well, we had a thing going in the Slack, didn't we? But it's slacked.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I'm sure when we're all around a table next time, we will bring a cake or two.
Yeah.
We'll all bring a cake. That'll be the rule.
What's everybody's favourite cakes? Can I ask that question? That's
a great question.
Great question.
Because I'm not a massive cake person.
Lemon drizzle carrot cake, but it has to have really good frosting
and good cinnamon.
Have you tried a courgette and avocado cake?
I have.
I don't like the sound of that.
Carrot cake. It's kind of similar to a carrot. Well, how is it any different to a carrot cake? It's vegetables.
That's nice.
All right, fair
walnut cake is the best cake.
Yeah, to be fair, our nan's cherry and walnut cake, and Dan can attest to that.
That's a quality cake. It is.
And the reason why she gets it so perfect is she weighs her eggs and uses the same amount of flour as the weight of
Yes.
the eggs. The
That's
OG
exactly
way
the
of
way to
doing
do
it.
I
The
think
OG
baking.
way
I
of doing it.
personally
Exactly the way to
think
do it.
baking is a science, not an art.
Yeah,
It's a science, 100%.
and that's exactly why Faeza loves it.
I think that there's a cake that obviously I've been working in a tea room for 10 months that we do, which is a salted caramel and chocolate cake, and it is honestly the best thing you've ever tasted.
Yeah,
in your
I can do with
Can you
salted caramel.
get one of those? I know you left,
I can
but
get
can
one
you
of
get
those.
one of those and bring it in? That's what we
Yeah.
want.
Bring it
Do
in.
that.
Yeah, bring it in.
How?
Eat it in front of us and
No,
describe it.
that'd be
like
terrible.
like a mukbang.
It have to be a real
Send it.
life.
Like right up close
Send
to
it
the
in
mic.
like a vacuum packed
Post
thing
it.
to each of us. Yeah,
No, it wouldn't work.
post it.
We have to do a live stream.
We'll do a
all in
live
one
stream
place.
Yeah.
in
Just
a
do cake. We won't actually
jacuzzi.
do the D&D. It would just be
In
like,
Brad's-
look at
in
that.
Brad's parents' jacuzzi.
Are we just going to do it all
getting
at once?
smashed. Yeah, we should. With
Yeah.
the cake.
Why?
That'd be
Okay.
awesome.
I thought
All
most
in
people
there.
would watch that, wouldn't they? I think so.
I
Definitely.
mean, they probably would, but for very different
A
reasons.
hot
Our
tub.
viewing
saying-
people will be
we're
very
saying-
different.
we're saying a
love
drunk
watching
hot
cake
tub.
bob in water or something.
So
don't
we're
they?
doing
Yeah.
we're doing a drunk hot tub mukbang D&D stream.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool.
I just need to buy the.
Eating
I
the
just need
cake,
to,
the mukbang. We eat.
yeah,
eat
I just need to
stuff.
buy the floating
Okay.
table.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're just
Or we
we'll
could just have
we'll
tables
com- we'll
around
com-
the thing. You know,
we'll
you just sit
combine-
it behind you and like.
It's up against the
better.
wall, so there's only two
okay.
sides.
we'll
I
just
love how
we'll just
Brad's
combine.
genuinely thinking of the logistics
Yeah,
of this. I appreciate that very much.
We're
Brad,
just
thank
combining
how
all of the
mine
internet softcore allowed pornography into one stream, aren't we? Basically,
Way to do
let's
it.
be honest. Yeah. And maybe someone can ASMR on a mic as well, and that'll be it. And then we get
Yeah.
the
Or
we get
just
the whole
go
thing.
up to the mic as we eat the cake.
That's what a mukbang is.
you. Oh,
See, just like that.
I'm already uncomfortable. I'll be the sober one as well, so it would be either incredibly great. For
You'll have
me
to get
or
out
more
of the hot
likely
tub to get the
terrible.
cake for us.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
what
Listen,
no.
Sean, you're
No,
you're on
the
beer
sober
duty.
does have to go and
This is
serve
cute.
all the
You're
drunk
on, you're on
Cake.
cold beer duty.
It
No
has kicked
way.
up in the old chat though about cakes.
What have we
like,
got so
about-
far?
Well, so
Well-
far Taj is saying he's not a sweet person, which
Yeah, neither am I. But
Cars
that,
and
that
Johnny-
doesn't. But
Johnny said panettone. Now I would argue that's not. I don't know if that's a cake.
Ooh,
because
now
it's
it's
like a-
interesting.
No, it's like a bread. Brioche is a bread, isn't
Yeah.
it? So I'm like,
Suck
I'm
on
not
that,
sure
Johnny.
about that one.
What differentiates a bread and a cake, right? Would it be there's one
Sugar.
ingredient difference?
It's the
in
flour.
there.
It'll be the flour. I'm sure.
It's the
it will.
flour.
Yeah.
I can't remember
But
what the
when
flowers
you
are,
make
but it's the flour.
Bread, do you put eggs in it? Yes.
Yes.
No. I don't know.
I don't when I'm.
This is
making
this
it
top
with
You
my
put
quality
bread
sugar.
maker.
You
content
definitely
people come
don't.
for,
You definitely.
isn't it?
It's definitely all similar ingredients,
Yeah. It's a
but I think
balance
it's
of them,
just the
isn't it?
flour that's different.
So like
But
when
to
you make
make a
bread,
dough
you
to
don't
make
put
bread,
as
don't
much
you?
sugar in it as you would a cake.
Yeah, you definitely
I
don't
don't
put
know.
as much sugar
I
in
know.
bread as you do
Don't quote
cake,
me on this.
unless it's banana bread. But is banana bread a cake or is it a bread?
Oh,
That's a
look, we
cake
don't
that has
literally we
the
don't have the
bread
time
after
to
it.
discuss
Don't have
this
the time.
type of
It's
But
still
stuff.
different.
right?
panettone,
Completely
like, come
different.
on, stop being such
Soon
a
we'll be
cliche,
discussing
Johnny.
different types of tea.
Or if it's not
Yeah.
gulab jam, it's got to be panettone. You know, come on, pick something that's not Indian or Italian, Johnny. Come on, man.
I mean, Johnny's just accused me of being racist because I'm calling panettone a bread and not a cake.
I think it's at this perfect time where our DM is calling another player character a racist, and we're starting to move on to cakes.
Oh,
That
can I
we
just say?
will
You
that
need
we
to stop
will
winding
call
up.
Hang on,
we'll
this is
call
important.
last orders. We'll call last orders Ripper's Roadside Tavern.
I'm with Johnny on it because you can have a panettone with a coffee. You'd never have like a coffee and a slice.
You can
of
have a pan of
bread.
raisin with a coffee or a Danish, and that's a pastry.
When we-
You
yeah,
might
we're
not,
moving-
Sean, but I definitely do. With a bit.
No, but like an
slice of
evening after
bread.
dinner, a nice. You've had a nice meal. It's after dinner. You've got your coffee.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a slice of Kingsmill.
Yeah. Bit
and
of
have
Philadelphia.
munch-
Bit of Philadelphia
Kingsmill.
on the bread.
That's
nice
a
coffee.
starter more than a dessert. Philadelphia, I would say.
It's
I'd
not-
say
it's-
the toast.
it's
and
not a
the
dessert, it's
Philadelphia
a-
We've
it's
stuff.
after
we have
dinner
gone
snack.
down the rabbit hole, kids.
Okay, look, we'll take the
Kale
last
cake.
question.
Kale cake is the one I
Kale
like.
cake is the way we'll go. So we'll take the last question from Taj, and then we'll wrap up tonight. What will we do if the group split up and go their own way?
Wow.
I think it depends on what stage they're at in the journey.
And
Do you know what
why
I
they
mean?
split up
I
and went
think,
their own way.
If you were talking about splitting up and going their own way now, I'm not sure. I think because
tell you
there's
what.
still this overarching kind of drive that I think this whole plague thing is very important to each of them.
Mm.
So I think they probably carry on with that quest. to my brain. I think that's what Faeza would do anyway.
It's Hawthorne and my centre. Which one of those creates the most friction in the group, perhaps, or unity? Either way, right? So it could galvanise the group, or it could split
I don't
them
know.
up.
Octavius might just like flee into the woods or something.
Yeah, he'd just go and live as a hermit.
That's
That's exactly what he'd do.
Yeah.
What would Ripper do?
I don't know. Probably go to a bar. You know what Ripper would do? He would open up his own tavern, and that is where we can perfectly, whatever the an anti-segue, a closing segue. I don't know if there's a term for that.
It's just a segue.
It's just a segue, isn't it? Yeah. I've had a lot of fun doing this. I think we should try and get a Ripper's Roadside Tavern in whenever we get to the end of these arcs. It's a nice chance for us to discuss where we are now. We've got a moment in time from when we've discussed from the beginning.
Yeah,
almost
anniversary,
a year.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
And so I think it's been really good fun. I'm going to throw this to someone else. See how you guys know about the socials. Who's going to take the socials off me? Well, I got hosting.
Can you wait a couple of minutes and then it'll appear on the screen and I can just read it off.
Yeah, go on then. I think Brad should do it. I think Brad should do it anyway.
Yeah, I did it last time.
I don't know when it's going to appear.
Can't you make it flick to the next? Because you're in charge of the stream.
No, not quite. I haven't done it
upside down.
But I can.
I'll do it. So first of all, thanks to everyone who's been in the chat, because it's been a really, really good chat. And thank you to Johnny as well, who hasn't been on screen. He's been really busy answering questions and
he's got 2 levels of exhaustion. So hasn't been able to join us. So yeah.
But yeah, he's been typing like a demon answering everyone's question. But if you want to join us on the socials, or if any of this has prompted any other questions, we still monitor our socials. So we're on Twitter and Instagram at Blood Song Party and Blood and Song on Facebook. Is that the right way around? Have I got it? Or is it
almost?
Oh, damn it!
Blood Song Party on Twitter.
And then everyone else is Blood and Song. Damn it! So close. I sounded pretty confident.
Very good,
Christine.
Christine. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Very nice.
And of course, if you want to catch up on any of the previous episodes to prep yourself for the next episode, you can find us on YouTube and Twitch. Search for Blood and Song, and if you are Total Party Win and type in Erionwel, that will help you get over the pesky algorithm, as that's quite
smashed
pesky.
Pesky algorithm.
There you go.
Smash that like button.
Definitely
join the Blood
wouldn't
and
have been
Song
that good.
army.
Oh, I forgot to smash the like button and a subscribe.
Smash the like button, subscribe. Please share with everyone.
Yeah.
Ring that bell for notifications.
Every episode is chopped up into bite-sized pieces for a podcast. So if you can't spare 2 or 3 hours to watch or follow this in a whole big chunk, you can do it in roughly 20-minute sections on your commute, because those are starting again.
Yes.
They're all going. So,
yes. They are every day. A little bit of us in your ears.
Disgusting. Ryan, thank you as well for putting this together, or and sort of managing to corral us and doing a little bit of a hosting job. It's good to see, and I know that you're also a good DM. So at some point it'll be nice to see maybe another one shot or something, or maybe even a mini series from you. That would be fun. But definitely
delighted to run it.
Yeah, more Roadside Taverns to come, please, Ryan, because it was a lot of fun today.
Yeah, really loved it.
Hope everyone found it very interesting to find out a little bit of
what's
going above.
Yeah, if nothing, we did, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Brad, time to put that bird back in its cage. Actually, Faeza, can we see the goggles just before? See what the goggles look like on?
Done, because she always drops. She drops. These are normally on a chain. I haven't got that. So she drops the glasses. She goes like that. Right, where are we going?
Perfect, lovely.
Yes.
And it's on that amazing image.
Upside down. I think they're on upside down.
Oh, they are.
That's so brilliant. Faeza would have them on upside down anyway.
She would, wouldn't she?
They're like Dennis Taylor's glasses, so that he can see when he's playing snooker.
Exactly right.
And on that old reference, we are locking the doors to the Roadside Tavern. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
See you later, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.